Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is show number 198. Logan, it's hard to believe we've been doing this show for that long. Right? Yeah.
It is crazy because
you were like how old?
I can't figure this out.
Oh, you can't figure this out. Logan is producing the show tonight. He's sitting over to my right because Matt seems like he's trying to get out of it. And lucky for us, we have probably one of the most uplifting and just brings light into the room. My good friend Scott Hoffman, co-founder of Dirt Bike Test, has been with us for forever, since the beginning. And Scott was long time in the moto industry. Period. You were at Dirt Rider.
I was.
You were at Cycle News before that.
Contributor, yes.
Contributor, Dirt Rider for a long time.
Yeah.
Started his own magazine, Supermoto Racer.
That's correct.
And then somehow joined up with my crazy idea of trying to do this dirt bike test.
That's correct.
And we're still doing it somehow.
Somewhat.
It's just a lot of work. No comment?
Oh, yeah, obviously. I haven't been as active lately, but during the heyday, if there was a heyday, yes, busy.
Yeah. So awesome to have Scott back on the show. I was kind of surprised because we don't talk a whole lot. We have some mutual business interests and just a couple different things. Although everybody knows, if you know me, I'm adverse to making money. So that's why the business thing doesn't really work. It's more of funds. We have funds. Not funds, funds. And so I gave Scott a call, pitched him on the idea of doing the show, real similar to what I did with my good buddy Jay over at Dirt Bike TV 1, and said, hey, I want to do this show. And Scott said, sure, I'd love to cheer up the mood because I know you're going to get all down. And and because tonight we're going to talk about the worst worst dirt bikes and dirt bike products ever. And so we're going to finish this off. When we finish this segment off, it's going to be the worst dirt bike of all time. So have you thought about this?
Since you gave me all the prep time, yeah, I think I had like 20 minutes to think about it, but I've got a few ideas.
Don't give it away because I still haven't formulated my answer yet.
Right. Well, I'm on the fence. There's quite a bit of reason. Depends on the bike.
We can drill down on it and come to some sort of a conclusion. But I'd like to thank all of our sponsors for tonight. Of course, Yamaha, which no matter what, it cannot be a Yamaha, right?
No.
Because Yamaha is a sponsor of the show. So no, okay, good. I don't think it's a Yamaha either. So anyways, Taco Moto, Scott Sports. We're doing Roosterando tonight. Roosterando. This is the segment where you send us a picture of your bike. Do we have a full quorum of Roosterandos in there?
I think we have 4.
4. So you could take one if somebody sends it to Matt and Matt forwards it over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt at JimmyLewisOffroad.com. That's where you could send your Roosterando submission. You're vying for a $100 gift certificate from Taco Moto. And I think, Logan, what you want to do is adjust Scott's picture a little bit and see if you can get the chat up into the foreground of the show, not the background, so people can also see what's going on in the chat.
Do I need to move the camera?
No, you're good.
All right.
It's bring that to the front. Yeah. However, I saw you highlight it.
No,
I like to produce this from the side over here, and your pay's getting docked every time there's a penalty box be here. So, hey, if you're over on the Instagrams and we cut you off, for sure try to join us over on the Facebooks or the YouTubes. We're live there. And if you are enjoying this show, be sure to go back and check out the old episodes because these shows are kind of timeless. We're not talking about too much time stuff. Hey, look at that. And what did you reveal? What does it say right up there, up top?
I don't know. It's too small.
It says, hey, Logan. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you can drop Scott down. We don't need to see his titties.
No.
Yeah, it's so Scott. The big news on your front is 193 pounds.
Yes, right around there, 3 to 5, depending on the day and what I eat.
Right. So the cool thing is one of the places that we stream. I was just trying to get a fly off of my off of my shirt here. One of the places that we stream to is a Facebook group. It's an old guys moto fitness thing that Lyndon from Seat Concepts started up, and it's a lot of guys that are using, riding dirt bikes to motivate them to get back in shape. And I remember it was probably about 2 years ago. I'm just gonna go out there and say you were in some bad shape.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
So it seemed like a couple little injuries, and then the weight came on, and the motivation went downhill, and then you dropped I'm Racing Mammoth.
Well, I was already starting to work on my program. Then I go, hey, maybe I'll take it to the next level. And I'm not in awesome shape, but I'm in better shape. Let's just put it that way.
Right. So why not just go up to altitude and do long motos?
Exactly.
That sounds like a plan. Okay. Well, so
I'm
we'll
on like some motocross Botox, though. I've tried to buy some supplements and some of that, go rhino juice and a couple other items.
You're on the rhino program.
There's a couple pills here, a couple pills there, and I'm trying to cheat the best I can for age appropriate.
Right on. I think that it's funny because I've kind of porked up a little bit. It started during COVID. I'd like to blame COVID, but I was just being lazy and kind of cut back on a lot of my physical activity at the same time, getting a little bit older, the metabolism slowing down. And the one thing I didn't do was literally like watch my diet. And I've always been able to sort of run it off. And by run, I mean really like running quite a bit. Riding, I don't use enough energy when I'm riding to quote, like, I mean, it keeps me in certain kind of shape, but the only thing I do when I ride is lose weight, water weight.
You are a sweaty rider.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's hot in here right now. I don't know what the hell happened.
It is a little toasty.
It seems like somebody opened a door on the other side of the house and all the swamp coolers moving out. There's a button you can push on a controller right over there that would fire up the air conditioner too. I think it's right in front of you. It should be there.
You guys live right next to hell, kind of.
It's kind of like, I would call it North Hell. Take your shirts off is what the comment we're getting from a one Jana Bond. Familiar with her?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, you're trying to get Logan. How old are you now, Logan?
17.
17. Jana, I think that's you're not allowed to tell 17-year-olds to take their shirts off. That would be inappropriate behavior. So, hey, let's get into the motorcycle talk. I don't see a whole lot of questions. Yeah, if we just push this.
We have one.
Are there green buttons up on that thing?
One Jody Weisel disciple that already put his pick for the worst motorcycle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. What was it?
TM400.
Oh, I mean, I like motorcycles a lot. That's the only motorcycle I've thrown out of the back of the truck on purpose. And I literally threw one out of the back of a truck because there was really nothing else to do with it. I kind of regret doing it today, but I was like probably 18 at the time. I don't know. We found / acquired / came in contact with a few old motorcycles somehow, and that's where that one ended up.
You've actually ridden one?
Remember? Yes, yeah. Talk about the light switch of a power band. That's definitely a horrible motorcycle. I don't know if it could be one of the worst. I don't know. I still haven't decided. That's a really good choice though. So, okay, I'm sad Yamaha hasn't released the 24 WR450. Well, Flynn, it's going to be exactly the same as the 23 YZ or WR450 because the WR450 recently just got upgraded and it's usually on like 2 to 3 years behind the YZ. So don't expect any big changes in that. And then we have a lot of questions that were submitted on last week's test. So let's get into my list here. By the way, if you are looking to make your bike a little bit more comfortable, don't overlook seat concepts. They have a wide variety of seat options from stylish replacement covers to complete seats, as well as various height and width profiles, unmatched support and impact dampening to the rider. And by the way, their wait time is down from 6 weeks. So they're finally getting caught up on all those back orders. Whether you're hitting the motocross track or getting geared up for the trek across the country, Seat Concepts has a seat for you. SeatConcepts.com, saving asses since 2009. So it's amazing to see how a company that started out in a guy's garage making seats for vintage bikes is now one of the seat leaders. And I mean, that's one of the mods I do on a lot. Actually, almost all of my personal bikes have a... I choose to ride certain bikes because I have a seat. There's 2 bikes that are exactly the same, like 2 KTM 500s. If one of them happens to have the seat on it, even though it's 1 bolt or 2 bolts to change it, I will hop on the one with the better seat. So, okay. Last week we started talking about like why stock is best. This was a discussion Jay and I had because you know how like manufacturers build bikes that are designed for everybody, and so as a target, it's a pretty good deal. Makes sense?
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part, except when you're big and then you have to put springs on them, or they're not exactly set up for you, or
right.
All the different things. But they're set up for the perfect ideal human, is what you would think. But I can tell you that probably the easiest thing for me to say is some of the worst bikes I've ever ridden have been modified project bikes for magazines. Would you go down that path with me?
Somewhat. I mean, sometimes a lot of the project bikes that I kind of been involved in building, so I've kind of like, molded them into what I wanted. But some of the blind bikes that someone just builds, here, come and ride this thing. Yeah, sometimes
Well,
too hard of power bands, and they pull the stuffers out of the exhaust because they want that wow factor.
Well, you just kind of said the exact thing is like when you build it for yourself, or you target it towards yourself, it becomes better.
Right.
But just in there over the years, I've had the opportunity to ride so many different build bikes that were they just basically threw the catalog at it. Let's call it that, and they were some of the absolute worst. Although they usually looked really good. They had a lot of cool things on them. But when you went to ride them, you're like, and back then it was like, did anybody bother to jet this thing? After they put the big carb on it and the different pipe and the other stuff. So, yeah, that was always my thing. So, and somehow a lot of these I would call unsolicited modifications. I mean, they're just trying to show it to people, but at the same time, it's like, what's the purpose? And bling and graphics and all that other stuff aside, when they start getting into the shock and okay, here's just a revalve, it's like, well, for who? And that was so some of my things, and I think that yeah, if something, generally if it's kind of like the what I tell a lot of people when they say their bike isn't working, I'm like, what's the last thing you did to it? And they're like, well, I bolted on this or that or some other thing. So the first question is worst aftermarket part ever. I'll give you a minute to think about this because I had time to think about this.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, it'll take a second. I'm gonna go with. There's 2 things. It's because one's bike and one's sort of body. The worst aftermarket part ever for me was those they're called iCats or Sparkies, or those different things that you would basically plug it into your spark plug cap and then screw it. Basically it was an interrupter between your spark plug cap and your spark plug, and it was supposed to make your bike have more power. And it altered the spark duration or did all this different kinds of things. And I just remember that if you wanted to talk about a good way to screw up your bike, yeah, Roost Boost was another name.
Yeah, that was
one of those things.
Answer made the Roost Boost.
Yeah, and I think the company that was making this thing, whatever it was, the magic pill that was kept coming back, and they would talk different people into packaging it a little bit different. That quite possibly could be, because it was just complete snake oil. And I tried really hard to feel a difference, and they would show you dyno charts, and we would actually be at the dyno and we'd plug it in and run the bike on the dyno. You couldn't tell. And other than there were times when it would actually alter the jetting somehow, like it just would make the bike not run properly. So, and then there's just another point of failure, another thing in between the thing. Brenda Hansen wants me to say front disc guard. No, I think like I said, if you can show me dents, really good dents on your front disc guard, then you need one. So I think that's actually a viable product. And he says, what about that magnetic oil filter, Flynn? No, I've actually been using that, and for the price, I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing, but because it's really expensive, but I can put it in there and it sucks a whole bunch of stuff out of the oil, even after you're switching regular filters and stuff. So Scott, what's your worst aftermarket product ever?
Well, as a child, I got a 76 RM125, and I thought it would be cool to put air caps on the forks. And my brother and I actually put air in the caps and pressurized them, and realized that I was making suspension that was already terrible a brick. So those old air caps back in the day were probably one of the worst things I ever did on a bike. That was just terrible.
David B wants to know if you got that out of the J.C. Whitney catalog.
I may have. I saw there. I didn't know squat, so I went ahead and got it.
Right. I think I got denim pants out of the J.C. Whitney catalog, like denim leathers or something like that. They had pads in them. Worst product ever, as Trevor says, plastic clutch cover protectors. Really? I run those. Thanks. Sheener says Twisted Engineering handlebars. Shawner. Yeah, I not familiar. Were those the carbon ones that were supposed to flex or something like that?
Yeah, they were carbon fiber handlebars. I'm not sure exactly what happened to them, but they were here for a short period of time, and I think they got expensive. But I'm not sure if they broke or whatnot. But some people said they were okay. Some people probably thought they were just putting something carbon fiber that might break, and use it as a spear if it did break. So you never know.
Yep. I got Jay on my Instagrams here. I'm trying to get him to come alive here somehow, because I'm gonna ask him what the worst aftermarket. Let's see. Add as a moderator. Go live. I'll go live with this guy. Hey Jay, I'm looking at your roof in your house. We were probably too slow to catch you, but he's jumping on. Jay, quickly, worst aftermarket product ever. And if it's and I'll give you a bonus if it's something you actually hawked back in the day.
Yeah, I can't think of it. Let me think of what's the worst thing. Hold on. I think of those big Scott moon boots.
Oh, Scott boots. You mean the recent ones or the early ones?
The early ones that were all plastic and you couldn't move in them.
Interesting. So I never got to wear those, but I did wear the second iteration of the Scott boots, and they were they weren't great. They had promise. And you know what's funny is you look now at boots and they're mostly plastic, and Scott just got a little bit ahead of the curve. They decided to just go all plastics, no animal products in that. So, yeah, good one. So we're gonna. Do you have a worst bike ever?
Myself.
Oh no! Wait. I was gonna ask Jay if he had one, but he froze up on the screen.
Oh, then we're going
He's
to
got a
bike.
baby.
Right?
He's got a baby. No, we're not going there just yet. We'll get there. I was going to ask him if he had it, and I was going to try to get him back on, or at least have him. I could call him. I could actually call him on the. I got that fly right on the lip of my beer. That fly's been buzzing around here, bugging me the whole time. Well, Jay, I think somehow the internet connectivity world lost us. If you have a worst bike ever, I'll call you. I'll actually give you the call. I'll plug you into the board and we'll get that, because most people can't hear you through this. So everybody on Instagram world, come and see us over in the other forums, and we'll see you soon. So okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
What about the worst production items on a bike?
Worst production, Yamaha, sponsor of the show, brake activated suspension system.
Bass.
The Bass. You remember that? That was the first thing you disconnected after you literally almost went over the bars doing a jump, because you know people would drag their brakes going up a jump and it'd make it soft, and then it would like there was always Yamaha swap back in the days. That was a thing, but this actually would Yamaha swap in an up and down direction. I mean, the idea behind it's really good. Like when you're on the brakes, there's braking bumps, and the kind of, it would make the suspension a little more supple. But a lot of people had would use the brakes kind of going up jump faces, or even going in a turn. Since it made it softer, it would actually squat the back end out and the bike wouldn't turn. I remember that on my 1986 YZ 125. Is that the era for that?
Yeah, 85, I think it was.
85. Yeah, I think I had it on 85 or 86.
Maybe it was 85 or 86.
Just disconnect it. It didn't last for very long, but good idea. Bad results. So what's your worst part on a stock bike?
23-inch front wheels.
Oh, my buddy Dave would disagree with you. Dave Donatoni. You've seen the photo up at the cabin of him doing that cross up, that decoster. Back in the day, they called it a decoster when you'd go off the jump and turn the handlebar. He did that on an Honda XL 500, I believe. And because that wheel was bigger, it just looked so much more badass. What was your reasoning for that?
Oh, I just remember recently someone was asking me, somebody had like a 79 CR125 for sale, and I go, those were one of the worst 125s ever built. And I believe it was the only CR125 that was ever built in America. It was 1979. It had the 23-inch front wheel. It might have been 80.
These
I think it was 79.
These kids don't even know what they're missing.
They don't know bad. There was a lot of just bad motorcycles back in the day.
What about 20-inch front wheels?
Well, those.
Did you get to ride those a little bit?
I did. I liked them, but then they progressed with the taller sidewall on the 21s, and they got rid of the smaller wheels.
Yeah, and you can in reality, if you like it, in my opinion, if you like a fatty tire on your bike these days, like a bigger, like a 9100 instead of 8100.
Right.
Or am I getting that backwards? Yeah, 9100, the bigger one. You're going to get that kind of same sensation, although they used to say it was lighter, and I could feel it a little bit, but I never was happy with like the turn in. Like it just, the way it fell off the side into the turn wasn't really that good. But I don't think it qualifies as worst here. Hey, we're going to take a question from Brenda here. It says, I'm looking for some levers that will make the reach shorter. So she has a KTM 300. I have adjustment maxed out, and my hands are so tiny they have to use my middle finger to brake. I have both levers as brakes. Oh, so she has a recluse clutch and a left-hand rear brake. I don't need the pull to be easier, just closer to the bars. Any idea? So I do actually have an idea, Brenda. The activation. So if you take the lever off the bike, the pin that's kind of going in and activating the piston in there, you can actually just shorten that a little bit, and it doesn't take much. I mean, you can take a millimeter off and get it closer. I know this because I do it on some of my bikes. Just notice that piece is rounded, and you kind of want to keep it that way. where it goes in and pushes on it. So if you do kind of grind it off, kind of round it off again and make it smooth, because it will affect the feel as well. And it's easy. It's hard to make them longer. It's easier to make them shorter just by kind of grinding them down, but do it in really small increments because it doesn't take much. And believe it or not, a lot of times it can do it both ways, just depending on the leverage ratio. It can make the pull either lighter or softer. And then someone says spoke covers are the worst aftermarket product ever. You running spoke covers, Logan?
I have on one bike.
Explain.
And it was bought in that way.
Oh, you bought it that way, so you didn't have to install them. No. Did you buy it from a
pit bike?
Did you buy it from a freestyle guy?
No.
No.
A prompt guy.
Prompt guy.
Mm.
Thanks. I didn't sell it to you.
And Jimmy, on those levers, ASV does make a lever that actually has a little dial on it that you can change where the reach is on the clutch side too.
Right. Well, the KTM ones all kind of do that. The KTM ones have a very easy adjustable thing, but I think the ASV one actually changes the position for the leverage ratio a little bit also. Or is it sort of like a stock KTM one?
The ARC ones actually, I think they have different settings and different little cams you can adjust the way it pulls and how it engages.
Yeah, and I'll tell you on that front. So there's this thing called Rocky Mountain Engineering that makes an easy pull lever. I'm not a big fan of it just because of the shape of the lever, and frankly I don't. It makes the pull like kind of too easy and alters the feel of the clutch. But a lot of people really like those. But check out ARC's website because they have a lot of. They have a ton of different options and stuff for this. They go overboard in designing levers, and that's why you see them on a lot of the factory bikes. So. Chris Reel says a reed valve pressure activated oil pump. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was on, but I imagine there was reed valve pressure activated. So I think you're not talking about a Husaberg, are you? I hope he's not going Husaberg on, because the old Husky 4-strokes and the old. Actually, Honda XRs had those for a while, but I think they were backed up with an actual oil pump. But I think there was a time when they were actually using just the crankcase pressure to circulate the oil inside of the motor. Or hopefully it's not like a 2-stroke oil injection sort of a thing. He'll probably get back to us on that.
What about boost bottles?
I never had a problem with boost bottles.
Are they snake oil or did they actually do something?
In fact, I kind of, because I did a couple tests with Yamaha way back in the days where they're having problems jetting YZ125s, and we took them on and took them on and off, and they weren't telling me that they were taking them on and putting them off, and it always ran better with it on back then. So, I'm not really sure why that is or how that is. But it ran better, and I don't know what else they were doing, but we were always able to get the bike jetted better with the boost bottle on. Josh K says rim graphics are the worst things ever. Rim graphics, I think, might protect your rim a little bit. So Vor had one, early Husky. Yeah, so he's talking about the crankcase activated oil pumps. Vertimani, Vor. Yeah, Husky, very light weight engines is what they were shooting for, even though they were way heavier than the stuff we have today. So what are the top 3 worst aftermarket products riders buy and why? Worst 3. I'm going to go. Loud exhaust, just open loud exhaust. That's my it's a pet peeve I have. Most guys buy it just because they hear the power, they don't feel the power, and they never really even do any kind of substantive tested. They just think, oh, if I make it open, it's better. It's like, why don't you just cut the muffler off then? I mean, if you're going to, it's cheaper, just cut it off. And you're going to get the same sort of thing with some of the mufflers that some of these guys, just the super open exhaust. So that's number 1 on my list by a long shot. What mean number 2? Number 2 is guys that buy ECU units that reprogram their bike, and they ride it in an area where the ECU is actually worse than the stock one. In other words, they're riding it kind of in this lower RPM range where the stock bike is really good and tractable, and they buy an ECU that they probably never tuned it in that dyno range, and it flutters and then comes on kind of aggressively and does all kinds of two things. So that's my second one. And my third one, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna think about this, and you're gonna go with your number 1 worst aftermarket product.
I would have to say guys at the track that run race gas on stock motorcycles. Buying $100 a gallon gas smells good, but on a stock motorcycle that doesn't really need it. That's probably my number 1 waste of money modification. And I would have to agree with you on exhaust pipes, because I've noticed very little on most exhausts. Every occasionally, might notice a little bit of a benefit. And probably
especially, I mean, this is definitely a newer phenomenon. The exhausts on the stock bikes have become so good. I mean, back in the day, yeah, an exhaust pipe, and especially in the 2-stroke area, you could really improve the performance of the motorcycle with the pipe. And even in the early 4-stroke days, there was a lot of stuff going on. But I mean, it really rattles my cage, especially when guys are taking, especially the quiet bikes, the ones that are good and quiet, and then just putting a loud exhaust on it. It's just that mentality. So yeah, I'll go there. Do you have a number 3 on lock?
Number 3 would basically be, full vet beginner novice guys that I tell them to buy like a off-road motocross bike, like the XCF instead of the SX.
FX. Yamaha sponsored the show, so you should be pimping the Yamaha YZ450 FX.
The FX instead of
for 2023. It's going to be just like, let me get this ad read in here. Come on, Scott. We got to pay the bills around here. The 2023 Yamaha FX 450 is going to be just like the 23 YZ 450. So we know that thing's going to have a ton of power and have a new handling characteristic that I believe is going to be way better for off-road. So I haven't ridden it yet, but I'll let you know. But keep going.
There's so many vet beginner novice guys on the vet track that would benefit from riding the off-road race bike opposed to the motocross bike. They'd have more fun, easier to ride, a little bit plusher suspension. And I just can't get these guys to believe that comfort, and they're going to have more fun riding on a bike that's a little more catered to themselves.
We need to do a test, Trevor. We need to do a test where we get the motocross bike and the FX bike and go back to back at a vet motocross track and do like lap time. So you get the KX and the KX 450X and the Honda Sierra 450 and the Sierra 450 RX, or the YZ 450 and YZ 450 FX. Because I really agree with that. I had my Yamaha WR 250F with the stock exhaust, and I was riding it around Washougal at the Alpine Stars Ride Day. It was one of the bikes. I had it up there for trail riding. I said, why not? They only had a certain amount of bikes for journalists to ride, but I had some of my bikes, which all happen to be enduro bikes, and I just went out and started ripping the thing around on the track, and I had a great time on that thing, especially when you're on a real outdoor track that's rough, and it wasn't that rough, but kind of rough and has off-road characteristics. You don't want to be doing supercross jumps, and trust me, it had a couple that I didn't jump because it'll run the suspension down. But vet tracks are not designed like this. They don't have kickers and stuff. They have jumps that kind of throw you up onto tabletops where yeah, I think that's a good thing. So
there's 40 and 50-year-old guys that are truly beginners and novices, and they're out there riding. And I think a lot of these guys would benefit from, they want the motocross name, but I tell them, like, here, just ride the off-road bike. I guarantee you'll probably be faster and have more fun.
Yeah, and you don't have to get stuff changed. And these days you can hardly tell a difference just looking at it on the stand. It's like, yeah, take the kickstand off of it And if you need to, switch to a 19-inch rear wheel, which I don't think you really need to. Those things could really help. So you've helped me solidify my third choice. It's guys riding motocross bikes out on the trails. So for the exact opposite reason, it's like guys they buy the motocross bike because it's the one. It's like, I know we're American and we want to buy a top fuel dragster to drive to work because there's 6 stoplights and you're gonna time them and take off out of each one. And you know, if you drive a twisty road, you want to have a Formula One car or a supercar or something like that. I get this, but do you really? I mean, it's the wrong tool for the job. They have really tall first gears. They overheat because you're using the clutch all the time. The power band isn't set up right. They're noisy. The suspension's stiff. All the right reasons. But hey, bro, you got a motocross bike. So I don't care what your skill level is. I think that's a big mistake that riders definitely make.
I would have to agree with you, and I have made that mistake a few times over the years. And I took a motocross bike to Saboba one time and just regretted it, and tried to take my motocross bike on which I thought we were going to the hills to go riding, and I ended up doing trails, and it was a nightmare. Not fun at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is coming from guys that know. I mean, if I have the opportunity, if I know that I'm not going to the motocross track, I will not look at a motocross bike for purchase. Period. Just it's and then for sure when I'm saying, hey, I want to do a lot of stuff, those FX bike, those competition off-road bikes make more and more sense all the time. Yamaha Motorsports USA. Let's see. Worst tire ever.
I'd have to say, well, the cheapest and the worst would be the old Xingxians that used to be $19 I used to get, but they were terrible.
Was it the one that was like a Metzler knockoff?
Yeah, it was like
it had the little
755.
It had the little ribs.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, I remember that. I've
They
had
were like
it in my past.
$19, and they would, the beads would be all flexy and floppy, and would spin the tire and tear the tube up all the time, and they were just terrible. But they were $19.
Boy, I might get in trouble. I don't know. And Jay and I talked a lot about kind of durability and quality and stuff on the last show, and there's a couple of different brands and things that I've had really bad luck with, and the kind of current trend. Everybody kind of got on this gummy tire thing, and some of the cost effective brands brought some in, and they were frankly some of the worst tires I've ever ridden. I think there was a Shinko, which I think is they were really, really bad. But they had one that was good. There was 2 different sizes. One was actually really good, pretty good, and one was really, really bad. There's also these Motos tires, and I can go on and on about the adventure tires, and there's Motos and Mitas, and there's a couple other kind of brands out there that they last forever. It's like, yeah, when you make a tire out of concrete, or I don't know what kind of rubber it is that doesn't wear. Yeah, if you get a super high mileage tire, then you're going to compromise someplace. And good God, if you have, like, we'll call it mixed conditions on the street, there's some of those. And frankly, the other problem with the Motos is I've never ever had 2 of those tires that were the same. I mean, even when I got the same one, it was like whatever rubber compound went into the mold that day was what it came with. And you got one that was a gummy enduro tire and another one that was, and I know I tested some that initially they were actually test tires. They were prototypes, or the early prototypes. And I'm like, send me a production one. I got a production one. I'm like, which one is it? And I didn't get an answer. And then I said, it was kind of like, I think it was kind of a mix. And I said, this one's kind of like wallowy still. And another one. And then it was a different tire. And I just can't. And the problem is when you're testing this stuff and they are expecting you to evaluate it and give information out to the public, it's like, I need to test a stock one because I want to have what the person's going to buy so that I'm describing something. And it's the same when we're testing, you know, bikes. When in the old days, it wasn't that uncommon to maybe get a cheater bike from a manufacturer, or, you know, one that was the best excuse I ever heard, and this came from KTM, was, this is the way it should have been. It's not the way you're going to get it when you buy it at the dealership, but this is the way it should have been because the suspension had been revalved. And I'd pulled bikes back apart back in the day, and they had already split the cases, and they had put JB Weld and little, you know, crevices so there's no air leaks and all this stuff like that. I'm like, what? This is crazy. It definitely wasn't a stock bike back in the day. They had already had the thing completely apart and, you know, blueprinted and probably checked the crank. And but that was, I think it's a little bit different now, but that's back when, you know, bikes weren't as good built stock back in the day. Yeah, the quality was definitely a little different, or it was really the production. I would say that the biggest thing is the production tolerances were a lot wider,
right?
And whether they got a final setting, you know, here in the U.S. and sent it back to Japan or Austria or Holland or wherever this thing went back to, and then it came back and it was like, well, this is the way we're doing it. And KTM was kind of famous for actually kind of, you know, really trying to push some of their development over here, which they've done a ton more, especially on the motocross side, and then sending it back. And then they just said, we're sending it over there with the European settings. Or maybe they just, you know, maybe some of the bikes just came off the assembly line that way. When I raced for KTM, we would open up the box and it would literally be a surprise. They would ship over bikes, you know, whether it were 125 EXCs or 250 EXCs, and it was a mystery as to what transmission was going to be in this bike, whether it came with number plates or headlights. And I mean, this is definitely the old days. Things have changed quite a bit, but what a great time to be in the motorcycle industry right now, because you do not have to worry about this at all. Worst grips ever.
Oh, well, Jimmy, one thing, back to tires.
Yep.
What free tire would you not run?
Free tire would I not run?
If you got a free tire, and what brand would
right
you
now?
Know, like here's brand new, free. Here, I say I'm not going to run that. Is there a tire that bad that you would not run it?
You're basically what you're saying is after I mounted this thing, would I be so sorry that I would actually take it back off?
Well,
that was the kind of case.
You've already ridden with it, but somebody gave you another one that's free. Is there a tire out there? You don't even have to say the brand.
You just say
exist?
No. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And some of the ones I just mentioned, for instance.
Okay. Right.
And then there are some tires in certain brand lines that I'm just like, no, not for me. And I'm pretty open as to, you know, if it's free, it's for me, kind of thing, or at least, you know, I'll try it. But it really depends on my financial situation at the time. I mean, I'm willing to go pretty low if I don't have any money in my pocket as to what I'm going to do. And a new crappy tire is often a lot worse than a halfway worn, you know, good tire. You know, the square edges sometimes make a pretty big difference. But when it comes down to like stuff that the carcass does or something I just can't trust, you know, durability wise, or it does something crazy weird in performance, yeah, no. Not going to go there. Grips. You have any worst grips?
Some of the grips that I used to have had they try to put foam on them and stuff like that. Did you ever try to ride with off-road with foam grips?
Like the ones that look like the ones that go on lawnmowers?
Yeah, kind of like the little puffy.
The ones that are currently on my Tenere and my Rally KTM 500.
Yeah, I can't ride with those.
You sound. We talked about this last week. We literally. I think we talked about it because it's like you sound exactly like everybody that's never used them. So good on you, Scott, for just blowing me out for having those on two of my bikes right now. Brenda says stock KTM grips. I don't really have too much of a problem with those. Those actually right now they're great. Because they're the ones we like the best. They're the ODI or the MIG style clamp-on grips. I love the clamp-on grips now, but there was the ones that they make them fat, like the Preston Petty hex grips. You remember those things? You have to go if it's not on the market anymore. It doesn't come anymore. And Brenda says the KTM grips feel like razor blades. Well, that's what a lot of people like. They like to hang on tight. Any of those grips that were fat and had weird shapes, for me, were just I don't even know the brand. Remember when FMF had the 909 brand?
Yeah, briefly, yeah.
They had some 909 they had like a hump on it that was supposed to sit in the palm of your hand. It was like a cushy hump thing, and it's like I just could never feel like I was hanging onto the handlebars. I always felt like I was on a what's that? The bean bag. My hand was on a bean bag on top of the grips, but maybe it's because I have small fingers. Which
didn't
something else.
Didn't Oakley have a grip that was kind of like the imprint of a palm or something like that? That was like, was that for like BMX bikes? I remember they had like a grip that almost
like your fingers, two of your fingers would wrap around these curves.
Right, it almost felt like it fit your palm or something like that. Back in the day.
Wow, a couple of people are not liking the ODI grips, which were our favorites last week. Interesting. I mean, hey, you know what? Everybody's got an opinion. That's what's good. But brand wise, I don't. There was J.C. Whitney. I bought some grips off J.C. Whitney. Just coming to think of it, I bought something back in the day, and they basically disintegrated when I went and put them on. And I don't even remember what I used to put them on. Like, I don't think it was even contact cleaner or something. Like, maybe it wasn't glue, but I remember putting them on with something, and they just disintegrated. And that was like, that was my whole allowance I used to buy those things.
Back in the day, in the motorcycle shop, they used to have like the boxes of grips. There were like $2. The bright yellows and blues. Those things were pretty much terrible. Pretty much good for your lawnmower only.
Mushroom grips. What are those?
I've heard
remember that. Yeah, I hear that. Worst graphics. Like, I think you can go anywhere with this design, quality. Yeah. Remember how crappy graphics were like when bikes first started really coming with them? Like, they would just they would be attached to your pants after the first ride. You'd have to put clear over the top. I remember on my KX125, when I got a brand new KX125, I put clear over the top of my graphics so they would last at least like 2 races at Indian Dunes.
Well, didn't even have graphics until like I think it was 87, 88, around there. That's basically when the graphics craze kicked off from Europe or something like that. They didn't even have bike graphics, except just little stickers on the bikes. Yeah,
it was just a sticker. It'd say Honda or Yamaha or whatever on the side of the bike. And I'm like a good friend of mine, Briar Halcomb, started Factory Effects, which is one of the early graphics companies. I think Seat Racing got into that too. They were making the safety seat before there was a seat that went up onto the gas tank, and I think they started having.
Yeah, Seat made those. CEET.
Yeah, Seat. Yeah, would go up there, and that was always Scott shreds all of his graphics off, says First Turn Films.
Donnie Bales.
That's Donnie. He may have been the first one that agreed with me when I mentioned I got to find somebody for the worst ever show. You haven't really gotten you haven't started just going down you haven't started driving this down too far yet.
Nervous energy from being on the World Wide Web with dozens of people watching me right now.
Dozens. Let's see. 67 people on the one platform right here, live, and thousands, literally maybe hundreds of thousands tomorrow. Like, Australia's just waking up right now, and we're big in Australia. I've seen the numbers. They're going to come on and start Graphics started when plastic tanks came along. Yeah. Let's see. Utah Desert Rider says old stock suspension on any XR back in the day is not good. I would agree with that to a certain extent, although I can't tell you how many hours I logged on an XR200 before I even knew that you had to change suspension fluid. And when that stuff came out, I tell you what, there was a smell that, you would not want to ever reproduce.
I would have to say also Meyer aftermarket plastic. It was
they were one of my sponsors back in the day, Scott.
It never fit. You had to drill your own holes for the
drill your own holes. Yep.
And
but the stuff that on my YZ125s, they used to make me extra thick. They could actually use a thicker sheet when they laid it up over whatever their form was, because it was just like they took a sheet and they laid it on top of something and stretched it into place. They would make me extra thick stuff so I could just blast through bushes out in the desert and it wouldn't affect anything. Like the handguards they used to make me were insane. They were really good. But and the good thing about that is like literally no graphics would stick to it. So whatever the plastic they used, it was porous enough or something. So that they made me, pink and blue, my favorite colors. It actually have on the bike at the same time. Logan, is that okay?
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I also forgot to mention like the aftermarket aluminum subframes that some people built that just never ever fit. I think it was AC Racing used to build aftermarket aluminum subframes, and nothing ever lined up.
I never had the need for an aftermarket. I mean, you could probably still get them on Amazon. There's probably somebody that makes this kind of stuff on Amazon that it's just like it's probably a universal rear subframe for a motorcycle, and you just buy it, and it has like a flexi piece. It's like it uses the same kind of, well, it probably is the same hose that you use to connect your water heater. They probably use that to actually get it to connect to the frame. Man, a lot of people have graphics companies that they don't like. Josh K Style Graphics. That was, I think, a KTM deal, because there was a whole K Style line. That was before hard parts, and then MMF. So, and by the way, the Oakley Type 3 grips that you complained about, Scott, just to have you know this, they're going for $500 a piece.
Oh, geez. On what, on eBay?
Or, someplace. Yep. Yep. That's the way it.
I think they were very short-lived. Maybe they're like collector's items.
Worst chain. Do you have a worst chain?
Brand wise, no. Probably some weird no-name Czechoslovakian.
So if it had 2 or 3 letters and it came from China, and you could get it for half the price of an RK or a DID, that was the worst. That was the worst.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do chains or no. That's something I would not keep out on.
And there was a time when some manufacturers started speccing their bikes with some of these chains, and it was adjust every ride, or maybe even halfway through the ride sort of thing. And they never stopped stretching. So yeah, chain is something you don't want to skimp on, like, because it's not only going to wreck the chain is going to wear out quick. It's going to wreck your sprockets too. Like as they wear, they try to wear the sprocket out as well, and chain guides and all the other stuff that can be worn out pretty easily. So I'm going to go with one more here, and then we're going to go ahead and take a quick little break.
I've got one more
sprockets. Oh, you got one more? What?
Worst product, it was aluminum 2-stroke exhaust pipes.
Oh. So I worked a lot with a guy at Factory Pipe up in Northern California, trying to get those to work, and there's something there, literally. And I've been trying to find someone that's willing to endeavor down this crazy path, because I think now with the fuel injection and the electronic power valve controlling the power valve, there's something to be done in pipe / power valve management that could make two strokes even better. And it could be something to do with the aluminum pipe, because they did do some weird things as far as the way they resonated. And we never got to the bottom of it because they were hard to produce, and I could never actually get enough of them with changes quick enough to actually learn what they were doing. But yeah, interesting one.
They got really hot too, and they would just burn everything.
They cooled off
they
quick
held the
too.
heat. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they held it. I think they just transferred it better.
Maybe.
Like when you actually touched it. I'm not really sure why. Whether it was a bigger heat sink because it was thicker material, but that'd be interesting to kind of go down that path. And then when they got hot, they dented pretty easy too. They definitely didn't hold up like a steel pipe. Worst sprocket.
Don't have an actual brand other than
actually
that.
Brand on those.
They used to have those funky steel ones with the offset teeth that I was always afraid to run.
That's a Sunstar. That's a Sunstar stainless steel sprocket. Mm-hmm. I got one as a test sprocket back in, I'll tell you, 2001. It's still on one of my wheels out here that I use.
Really?
It's funny because you look at it, it's like Swiss cheese. And we talked about these, I think even last week we talked, the teeth were a little bit offset. So there was one in the middle, one off to the side, one off to the other side, and it alternated. And it actually, believe it or not, it actually really works. I don't know about the wear on the chain, but I haven't really, like I said, it's still on one of my wheels and I haven't taken it off. So it's pulling duty. I run these DDC sprockets that last forever. So I do not have to change sprockets very often, but the thing's made the cut. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick little commercial break. I'm waking Logan up from his nap.
We might be taking an ad break because I'm pretty sure I know how to do it, but I'm not.
Yeah, you push one button. Matt said that this whole show requires you to push 3 buttons, which you're getting overpaid for doing that. But Logan, nice to have you back in the thing. I'm sure some of our viewers remember you. Yeah, you're about this tall back then.
Somebody wants to know how to buy a T-shirt from you.
Oh, I actually worked on making the T-shirt order form today, so we're closer than ever. When we come back from the break, I'll talk about this, and Logan's ready to push the button. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
The defending champion, the all-new Yamaha YZ450F.
What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. What is the Taco Touch? It's the best service in the industry. Virtually 24/7 tech support via email or text, and it's like having a dirt bike doctor on call every day of the year, helping you fix your bike or recommend parts or setups for you. If you've ever received an order from us, you know that the Taco Touch extends to our fulfillment, and our orders come with the coolest stickers that you've ever had, buying parts from anybody before, and a handful of root beer barrel candies. All of our Taco Moto Co. branded components come with a no questions asked lifetime warranty, and we'll even extend out the warranty of other manufacturers, OEM, and aftermarket parts where we can, sometimes for life. We test and tune endlessly and exhaustively and obsessively. We're trying to destroy everything that we can before you get your hands on it to look for weaknesses and to improve it, or to make recommendations to the manufacturer. And if it's something that doesn't meet grade, then we don't offer it on the store. Everything that we carry is something that we have personally used, tested, and ridden, and raced, and knows meets the high taco touch demanding standard. Go out and get some adventure.
We're live again?
Yep.
Oh. I was just catching up with my social media. I do it once a week. Yep. Welcome back, everybody. It's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm here with Scott Hoffman, also of Dirt Bike Test, and Logan Tyler. Logan is pushing the buttons over here, producing what we call producing the show, which means you show up late, you do a half-assed job at pushing buttons, and then somehow or another you get paid a little bit.
Yeah.
What's Matt paying you? Good? Giving you what he's getting?
Last time he did.
He's not cutting. He's not taking a cut out of it?
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll have to talk to him about this. So, Asher Lito, how do I purchase one of these awesome Tech Talk Taco Tuesday shirts designed by JB Black? we're going to start pimping these things on the internets real soon. On all of our social media channels. We'll definitely probably talk about it for a couple weeks on the show. Probably, I'm thinking that show 200 might actually be a big show if we don't get canceled for doing this show. And then, we'll have some. Who's going to cancel it?
Yeah, who's going to cancel you?
All the networks.
Oh,
yeah, all the networks. Yeah. Jay Clark might not be able to come on to the worst bike ever discussion. He sent me a picture of him conked out with a baby in his hands, or maybe somebody else sent me a picture of that. So we'll see how this goes.
I think he's out of state.
Maybe
right
I'll text.
now.
Yeah, he can't go. He's got a baby and he's got to get up at 4. So yeah, well, thank God I don't have any of those babies. Yep. So yeah, we'll promote these shirts. It's going to help support the show, and they are cool. It's really comfy and all the things that a t-shirt's supposed to be. I'm just going to become a t-shirt site. So I should do a worst state and country for riding in. Huh. That's a good one. Scott, worst country you've ever ridden in?
Sure. I haven't ridden in that many countries, so I can't say I've ridden off road. So I don't have the wide span that you do. But it wasn't easy riding in Australia, I should say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, because we went to go do a supermoto race, and of course we showed up, and the stadium that was supposed to have the race canceled it, so they had to move it, to some other place last minute. So that was my riding experience in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I had the same experience. I went over to ride an enduro in Chile, and I managed to get kidnapped and ended up being forced to race. We'll call it arena cross, which is the farthest thing from enduro. But yeah, I did that. But then I got to ride and cross the entire country, which was beautiful and brilliant. So good things happened there. The state for me is easy. It was Oklahoma, and it's because where we rode at this John Zink Ranch was just all shale and rocks. It was just shale and rocks, and when it got wet, it just wore out every part on the motorcycle, brake shoes, chains, sprockets, bearings. Who knows what happened if it went through the air filter? Luckily, it didn't happen to me. So yeah, that's the worst. But country, I'm trying to think what country really sucked. I've been to a lot of them. I'm gonna go. I know, Germany. Easily Germany, because it could be brilliant but it's just like California, Brenda. Germany and California. Well, California's trying to catch up to Germany, but it's illegal to ride off-road in Germany. It's so hard. You have to go to literally East Germany to be able to ride off-road, or go to another country. You can't even start up a dirt bike there without getting in trouble. It's that literally that bad. So California, look no farther than Germany for where you're headed. So good.
Where's the Pahrump open rocky desert compared to other places in the world?
Oh, the rocky part.
Yeah.
It's not as it's a little bit better than Oklahoma. But you just stay away from it. You just stay. It's kind of funny because when it just goes, and this is kind of like a lot of desert, when it just goes to complete rocks as opposed to dirt rock, at least there's some sort of consistency there that you just sort of, you become adapted to. But like plate rocks that are slippery and shale, dusty, I don't know. I didn't have fun in Oklahoma. I imagine there's some really good places to ride there. I just missed them. And then there's a lot of states that are just completely flat with really no redeeming qualities that I never even bothered to ride in, so they don't even rank. So at least I rode in Oklahoma. Well, worst aftermarket plastic, Scott, you called that one. You said Mare Plastic. They're still in business, by the way. They make a lot of ATV and UTV stuff.
Really?
Probably
hard to believe.
indestructible.
I don't think they make any modern motocross or dirt bike stuff anymore, though.
Yeah, probably not. They might make a handguard or two. Who knows? Maybe they do some vintage stuff, some vintage bike things. Who knows? Worst piston. Do you have a brand?
Back when I first got into it was always people called Wiseco, Seasco, but that was back way in the early '80s. So I always went with OEM. But that was always I had a couple Wiseco issues back in the day from, sticking pistons and whatnot.
Yeah, I remember like the bikes I seized KX80s and then YZ125s were the two bikes that I had problems seizing. And I seized, I think, every kind of piston in it. But I also, even back in the day, and it was funny, I had some Wisecos that lasted a long time and I had some that didn't. And so I think it was, maybe it was production tolerances or qualities back in the day, but that was definitely one of the things. And people talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, everybody had the Wiseco stickers because they send you contingency money. They sponsored all the series and things like that because they were definitely selling a lot of pistons. But I'll bet you it was just like today where you only heard about the bad ones.
Right.
Like right now when you see something break on the internet, everybody, one guy shoots a picture, puts it on his post, 20 guys copy it and say, hey, look at this. And it's like, oh, did that happen to you? No, but I found this picture. And that's kind of the take on that. But
there weren't a lot of options
there was
in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, well, even today, today we were talking about last week, so you have Wiseco, you have JE, you have Vertex, there's what are the ones that comes? Wassner, yep.
Wassner, whatever they are.
Yep. Do you have any? Let's see. I'm trying to think of. There's a few, and then of course there's stock, and there's Pro X.
Mm-hmm.
Pro X has stuff, and then you can find 20 different kinds of pistons on Amazon too. By the way, those could be the worst pistons ever, I guess, because who knows where it's coming from. It probably says piston for motorcycle, and it's just like one size fits all. Which
yeah, some of the worst aftermarket parts are probably unknown products on eBay or Amazon. That's a mystery product. Don't buy it.
Yeah, like I just give you some of the shopping advice that I have on there. Look at how many customer reviews are there, and if it's under like 200, be careful, because it doesn't take long for a company to have 200 reviews written by their people. You could write, it's great, 15 times and post it under different stage names, or you just hire a company that does this kind of stuff. But I still do have a pipe I got off Amazon on a CRF 230 that's still holding together amazingly. It's a full BBR knock. Actually, it's a BBR / Pro Circuit knockoff. So much so that it was so loud when I got it. I actually took apart a Pro Circuit pipe and put the end piece, the cap and the end piece in, because it had the end cap was literally plastic, and the Pro Circuit one just bolted right in there with metal. So not most people just have an extra Pro Circuit laying around to update their CRF 230 pipe, but that was the option I was dealt. Okay, so worst suspension mod.
For me, it's always any bike that I've ever ridden that's lowered. I've never liked lowered suspension.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with a good portion of that. I've ridden some bikes that were lowered properly, and they did a really good job. I want to say, God, I've tried a lot of different kind of weird things, from contractive suspension. You remember that? I actually felt like that worked, and that was actually lowered. Believe it or not, that lowered your suspension. And it was kind of like those inertial dampers. Remember those? That would do some stuff, but I always thought it was positive, especially for Supermoto of all things. What other suspension parts? Even some of those air chambers that you would bolt on the front forks were actually pretty amazing at what they would do. I think a lot of people would maybe like to say air forks. You're not a big air fork fan, no?
No, I had a bad experience on my 2013 Honda, and I chased my tail and never did get it working right. But later on, they got them working right, the PS1 fork. But I fought my motorcycle that entire year, and I finally got rid of it.
Yeah. God, bad suspension product. There was definitely some goofy stuff that people came up with, but I'm drawing kind of a blank right now.
Oh, back in the 70s, there was all kinds of different forks and whatnot, and Thorks and different cantilever suspension, but none of that stuff ever really made it into full production.
Why is the motorcycle industry so adverse to trying weird things? Like, look at the mountain bike industry. Like, every week there's a new suspension geometry angle, a different take on a fork, a pull shock, a single-sided shock fork, single-sided fork. Like, why have we homogenized into just one thing other than like KTM and their PDS?
I think it's just we're sticking with what works, and they're afraid to make huge risks and end up getting you make weird suspension stuff and weird gimmicks, like Yamaha tried to do a few gimmicks back in the 80s, and it kind of came back to bite them, and they realized that we just need to follow the path and make a good motorcycle without trying to do stuff like the Bass or a Z spoke or something that's odd that ended up not working, and they paid the price for it.
Yeah. So first turn film says Yamaha Bass, which we talked about early in the show. Is like right away it was one of our worst products ever.
Right.
I think fork seal wipers. They're I don't know. I mean, some of those ones that wrap around, they can help in certain situations, and they can hurt. I can't really think, but there was a huge evolution when everybody went to monoshocks. All of a sudden, everybody was trying different things, like the Yamaha, the way they had the monoshock that was kind of up underneath the gas tank, and then they started putting the shock down in different locations using linkages. That bike that Hannah rode that Boysen designed, the Boysen Link, I think they call it, where it was I don't know if it was a true full floating suspension. More so than the
swing arm was actually floating. It was actually had two pickup points on the top and the bottom, and the whole where the pivot point would actually go up and down slightly as the suspension went up.
Yep. Yep. So lots of different, yeah.
Probably the
Lots of
worst
different.
design ever was when Harley Davidson tried to put forks on the as rear shocks, and they had these weird looking forks sticking down. I think that was like 79 or 1980 when they made motocross bikes.
Right. Drug in the ground more than the chain guide
Right, exactly.
on those things. Yeah, some people would like to say the air shock on the BMW HP2, which I take full credit for. Yeah, I was the fifth guy in the decision process, and it was 2-2, and I said air shock 100%. Yep. So blame Jimmy for this one. I love the air suspension. I like the forks. I didn't like them when they had 3 different things you had to check, but I still do like air forks. Worst tool of all time. Worst tool. You have anything that kind of sticks? It's kind of funny because you know, as much as humans just love to bag on and complain about things, it's so hard for me to come up with I don't remember the worst things ever, and I think maybe some people do, and I'm not even kind of filtering what I say because we're live talking on a show, but usually people can remember bad things, but I don't remember bad things about motorcycling. I remember the good things. Like I can tell you my favorite tools pretty quick. And last week's show was way easier than this week's show.
I think we needed a little bit more. I needed a little bit more prep time to think about bad things opposed to good things. They aren't coming off the top of my head about what terrible things.
Scott, I hate to, I think that I thought that you would just have these things on like a list. It would just be like a conveyor belt of just everything bad.
No, I'm racking my brain and I can't think of just a myriad list of just terrible things.
Mr. Happy here. Oh, I'm unbelievable. Worst tool. It was easy for me to say my favorite tool. I'm just going off my list from last week because I do at least 3 to 7 minutes of show prep before. You notice that, Logan?
So do I.
Yeah, well, I noticed. You don't need to follow in my footsteps. You need to kind of kick this thing into gear. Are you ready to ask the questions that we have on the list?
No, but I can.
Okay, get ready for that because we're gonna do the question roulette from last time. The worst tool of all time. There's a couple things that are floating around in my head, and I think I'll try to remember them. But let's see, Scott. The question is, we had the question last week is, where do you get your motorcycle info from? Like when you don't know something, where do you get that information?
What decade are you talking about?
Let's say tomorrow.
70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, no, tomorrow. You know? No, tomorrow. You need to you've come across a problem with the KX450 that's right behind you. There's something that you don't know. You want to get some information about it. Where do you go? I mean, you just go to YouTube and search it, right?
I'll just go onto the internet and search it and see if I can find somebody that talked about it, and hopefully not somebody that's a full media outlet, maybe an independent guy that might had a comment on a chat board or a post or something like that, something that's not obvious or something like that.
So nobody like us. You would not listen to anybody like us.
No, I would, but I mean, odds are I might already know the answers of those simple questions that somebody might talk about.
Right.
But it's usually I'm already at that point where I already know what everyone's already kind of said about a certain thing, and I'm looking for something that has an obscure idea or that have experienced a problem that I've had or whatnot.
Right. I like to I ask that to Jay and the same thing because we kind of know a lot of the stuff, but when it's like how how do you know who to trust? Because when I have construction questions or something, I go look on the internets and I've developed a tactic, even though I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but I kind of look and I go, why is this guy giving away, quote, a secret or trade secret or something like that he's doing? Does he want to be, YouTube famous or something? Of course, that's what I'm trying to do here. But you can start sifting through this stuff, and it's like guys that are really good at doing what they're doing and they understand it don't have time to make YouTube videos. That's why we're doing this at 7:00 on Tuesday night.
Some people do though. I mean, I've fixed television sets that were ready for the trash can. I did some kind of weird search. All of a sudden, something popped up, and some guy has a video how to change these little $2 transformers in the back of the circuit board. And I followed the instructions, and boom, the freaking TV worked. I'm like, why is this guy giving away this information? So there are guys
that's and I think. Well, and it is, maybe that's what we're doing a little bit of. You know, it's like we feel the. I mean, I like. Why die with all this information? You know, it's like I want to kind of give it out because every once in a while, you know, the best information I give out is when somebody's bike doesn't have enough power. I like to tell them just to turn the throttle farther, and it works. You know, it's pretty much 99% of the time. So it's like these kind of things that people just overlook because sometimes you just don't know. But anyhow, you ready with the questions there, Logan? What are you looking at? Are you searching things you're not supposed to be searching on Matt's computer?
No,
it's
I'm
good.
looking at previous photos in the Roosterando thing, and there's a coffin with a.
Oh yeah, that's Jerry's photo. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, that's a coffin with a motocross track in it. Okay, let's run through our questions from our last episode because we had a lot of those. We'll answer your questions. People who don't ride dirt bikes have plenty of time. That's true too. Because I like to spend my free time when it's not 120 degrees riding a dirt bike. Although it got to like 103 or something yesterday when I was riding, which wasn't very pleasant. Fasst Company. www.fastco.com. If you're looking for a way to make your forks work better, or you just want more comfort in your handlebars, check out Fasst Company's Flex handlebars because they're awesome. I run them on pretty much every single one of my bikes, and when I'm riding a test bike and I don't have them, I wonder why my wrists hurt. So check them out. And by the way, super secret information, if you want to get a Seat Concepts discount code, we have one. Just email us over here. You have to figure out what my email is. It's not that hard. And I can hook you up with Seat Concepts discount code. So let's go to the questions, Logan.
What question?
I'll start right at the top. This is the best thing is like, remember when you were learning how to read and we were making you do this?
Yeah.
Have you improved?
Probably not.
Probably not. Or okay, the panel of judges, which is the entire audience right now, is gonna let us know. Let us know how Logan's doing on his reads. If you want to see if there's any improvement, just go back to episode. When did you start around here? Around 30
or 50. 30
or 50. He was sitting over to the side of me here, where he's behind where Scott is.
I was sitting right here when I first started.
Oh, we were at that studio, the one that was right down the road. Yeah, so you're comfortable right over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was about, he barely chin up on the table, and this is how he got his career in the internet started. Everybody's following you on what are you on now? Chatagram or Instadog, Pony Pod Talk thing, Zone? Where are you at?
I don't know.
Does your sister manage your social media account for you? Because she's outside, right?
It's very terrible.
Yeah, she's outside doing somebody else's homework for them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. First question.
STM boat.
Yep.
500 EXCF is a huge because it can actually deal with the street miles, not like the 350, which cruises at 35, 40 in the top gear.
I disagree with that.
Me too.
How fast have you got my KTM 350 going?
I think the max.
Yeah. Near 100?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. Okay, go. That's what happens when you give a 16 or 17-year-old kid, hey, Logan, here, ride this bike today. Yeah. What's the first thing you think he does with it when he gets on a dry lake bed?
Where does the throttle stop?
Right. Okay, keep going.
When geared for Eastern Trails and Moto.
Oh, okay. I should have let you keep talking, but
gear it up and you have an absolute slug. I went 350 because I needed to do more tight riding and didn't want to get beat up. But boy, for anything else, the 500 is better.
I tend to agree with them. Yeah, that's why I picked that as. Did you think I picked a KTM 500 as my favorite bike ever, Scott?
I believe it. Yeah, that's probably the most
Yeah.
versatile bike that you can have. Whether it's even, I had a 530, and it was still a really good motorcycle. I took-
Oh, his internets are going wacky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is it us or him? Our
Yeah.
speed's okay. Yeah, and the KTM 530 is one of the bikes I said was a real that was a black eye in KTM's fleet for a while. Okay, what does Park City Dual Sport say?
I'm biased, but Jay is right. Gen 1 and Gen 2 450X, the Japanese manufacturers for sure are really missing out on the 350 4-stroke and 300 2-stroke markets. Yami is the best position to make them.
I need to talk to Jay and talk to the people like at Cylinder Works or one of those companies and get somebody to build a bolt-on 350 cylinder for a Yamaha YZ250F. Like that, it just needs to be like the Cylinder Works kits where you just bought the cylinder and the piston and bolted it on. That bike would be insane. So yes, I do agree.
Are you better off downsizing a 450 or upsizing a 250?
I think upside because the
Some really good project bikes, as much as we bitched about magazine project bikes being like always, just the shittiest things, some of the shittiest things I ever rode. Some of the best ones I ever rode were companies that downsized. Like, I think LA Sleeve made a CRF 400X. They downsized a CRF 450X. The bike that we were talking about here is one of the best ones. They downsized it. And that, because the YZ250 and YZ450 are pretty damn similar. I don't know how much that lighter crank and everything on the 250 going bigger would, because it's really weight feel is kind of what you're going for at that point, having that lightweight bike. I know the power gets in the way, but you're going for weight feel. But Athena sells a 303cc big sport kit for the FX and WR250. Interesting. I have to look into this.
But there was somebody making a 400 kit for the CRF 450 a couple years ago.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A 350 base 450 would be interesting thing too. I mean, it'd be, in reality, if it would be really cool. This is what I like doing. This is like why I stick around and keep doing what we're doing is if I ever get the opportunity to try those bikes, if I could get somebody to build me a downsized YZ450FX and an upsized YZ250FX, I would love to do that test. To find, and then here Flynn says the Red Moto 400RX. See, there's bikes out there. There's people that are doing this stuff. I just don't spend enough time on the internets. I like to treat I won't talk about it right now. Okay, next question.
MX Engineer 1 says, fun discussion. KTM or Husky 501 are so capable both on and off-road. Perhaps you should have picked the best 2-stroke and best 4-stroke. I still remember when Jimmy said the 2009 KTM 250 XC was perfect. Best do-it-all bike, and after riding my 2009 KTM 250 XC, I could relate to his comments. Too bad Pioneer Mobility did not continue with the develop of the upside-down Husberg engine/chassis combination.
Yeah, so MX Engineer, yeah, perfect. I agree with everything you said right there. Hey, so Scott, KTM 500 or Husky 501? Because you've ridden both of them. And you spent a lot of time on both bikes.
It all depends on what my bias is. If I was going to buy a bike that I wanted to do some like vet riding, a little bit of motocross, I would probably buy the Husky because of the linkage. If I'm going to be mostly dual sport off-road, I'd probably buy the KTM.
Yeah, I can see that. The disadvantage of the PDS is I don't think it has as wide a range of. A single setting cannot span the same range that a linkage setting can. if you need to have that answered. That's a nugget for John to pull out. That's a really quick little nugget of why the difference between linkage and PDS.
But if I just wanted a pure dual sport off-road bike, I'd probably pick the PDS. But if I was going to do some Grand Prix or some track days and whatnot, or even some free riding, I'd probably have buy the Husky.
Yeah, if you only could have one.
If I could only have one.
One to do more.
Right.
That's the way you would go. What does Moto-minded 5275 say?
I'd say 2016 500 EXCF before the update. Large rear shock, great fork, solid engine, e-start plus kicker.
And remember when I was... Well, you won't remember because you weren't here. You didn't listen to the show, Logan?
What?
Last week's show?
I did not.
You did not, really? It's not on your top 10 playlist for listening to podcasts?
It's not.
Not really. Even after you were a co-host, you don't even watch the show you were a co-host of?
I like fiction podcasts.
Fiction podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, some people say that what I say is fiction. Yeah, so maybe I'll just go with that. And hey, so last week I said that when KTM went from the 2016 to 2017 and on, they got 8 pounds less motorcycle. It dropped weight. And this is what I was kind of referring to, is there was less motorcycle, less kickstart, little things. I think the performance actually went up, believe it or not, and most people will disagree with me on the shock and stuff. I think you can get more out of the shock and the fork on the older bike if you actually start modifying it. But stock for stock, the settings stock on the newer bikes have become better. I stand by that. I know this because I have those bikes. I've ridden those bikes when they're brand new. I have modified ones. I've done all this stuff. The internet disagrees with me, especially guys that get stuff for free and modify things. But if you have a specific target, you can it's easier to make the old stuff work better than the new stuff just because there's more stuff in the old stuff to work with. But yeah, that's the KTM 500 nugget that John needs to pull out. Like, what makes an older KTM 500 better or worse than a new KTM 500? At U2's FE 4x43.
What do you think early CRF 450X and YZ 250X, with those two bikes in your garage, you could do anything?
You can't go on the street. Scott, any comments on that?
Not really, but coming from a guy from you that could ride an XR 400 anywhere and do anything, so it's hard to have you to have an opinion.
Sorry. I'm still working up. I poured a little glass of Dos Artes Blanco to help me formulate my worst bike ever opinion.
Right.
Yeah, it hasn't started working yet. But New Jacuzzi 2010.
The best bike ever made was the Honda XR600R. You couldn't break it, almost zero maintenance.
Hold on. That's NVMC Rider 875.
Oh, yeah.
86475. So keep going.
Climbed like a Sherpa. Even when it was 10 years old, it could still win Baja.
10 years old, still win Baja. I disagree with that statement. I have some background in that. I might have some thing. Baja changed quite a bit between when the XR650 was winning and when the CR450X started winning. And trust me, you do not want to try to ride an XR650 at the same speed you ride a CR450X in Baja at this time. I have an XR600R. I'm sorry. That's even worse. Now we're talking a 15-year span. No. Best bike ever made at the time? No, the Honda XR600 was never the best bike ever. The true statement is you couldn't break it, almost zero maintenance, and it climbed like a Sherpa. No, it didn't. it was still 300 pounds. Yeah, when it was 10 years old. Well, from birth date XR600 to last year XR600, it might have still been winning Baja, and I might have been the guy on the bike that did it. I think I was the last guy. I think they might have won it one. No, I might have been the last guy to ever win it on the XR600. So, yeah, interesting. I have to remember
Jimmy,
my brains a little bit
What was your
better.
most fun bike last week?
The most fun bike ever?
Yeah.
It's a Husaberg 650 or a Husaberg 570. And you got to ride the 650. Did you ever ride the 650 that I built that I had as a long-term bike at Dirt Rider? We ran it in a 24-hour.
I don't know. I rode your Husaberg a few times that you have now.
570, the newer one.
Right.
Yeah, so it really, it's all about power. And for the amount of power, the lightweight and the agility of the bike, there's nothing that puts a smile on my face like that. Like when you have traction and those things hook up and they climb hills, and you can upshift on hills when 450s are downshifting, and just go on and on. But then at the same time, it's like, how much fun do you want to have? Okay, give me a YZ125. Just give me my my 2005 YZ125 that's sitting in the garage, that I had more fun on this year racing the Hangtown Invitational for old fat dudes on 125s, even though they brought kids in there. Ripping the sand track when it rains. Like when it rains next week, I'm taking that bike and I'm going to go out and rip the sand tracks around here. And I cannot have any more fun than that, for the exact same level that I can't really get the throttle wide open, but on the YZ125 I got the throttle wide open, and then I can think about everything else that's going on. So those are
more
my
fun
most...
than 10 buddies on XR100s.
Oh, Monkey Crow.
Racing the race around the lake with like 25 guys on XR100s.
Yeah, that's that. There's
That was one of the most fun races I've ever done in my life.
Keep lowering the power level of your motorcycle and bring in more buddies on similar equipment, and the fun goes. It's a ratio, an exponential ratio that cannot be replicated. Yeah, I remember that race. I have pictures of that. Charlie Flippin was there. God, there was a whole bunch of. We had our whole group of
15 or 20 guys.
Yeah, SoCal XRs. You know who else was there at that day? Remember who was a really fast kid on a mini bike? He was on a Suzuki.
I don't remember.
Travis Pastrana.
Oh.
So Travis Pastrana was at that race, and I remember Tony Alessi had told me about this kid. And when he came around to lap us, because we rode the mini bike race, of course, one of the races we rode, I decided I was going to stuff him because he blew right past us going into a turn. I'm like, I can outbrake anybody. So I ran him up wide, and he didn't know like what the hell was going on. I just remember the reaction, and I got him. I blocked him pretty good, and he wouldn't lean into me. He was a kid at the time, and so we were kind of going into that back section up into the trees where it was a little bit more technical, and his bike was so much faster. He was a little tiny. He was a fly on the back of this thing. It was so much faster, but I could take a really bad line instead of railing the berm and just cut straight into the main line again. Like 3 or 4 turns. I just remember thinking, this kid needs to let the clutch out more. Shows how much my techniques work. Okay. We have another one. What does N Jacuzzi say?
2017 through 2018 KTM 250/300 XC carbed. Rejet it, done. More torque than any other bike. Electric start, kickstart, 6 gears, linkage, excellent chassis, balanced motor, will outlast any 4-stroke in enduro. 4 strokes, meh. 4-stroke winning races, losing my life. Losing all life.
I have a hard time arguing with that because I see where he's coming from. He's got a bike that's simple. Mm-hmm. It's like it said, it's carbureted. There's not a lot of electronics on it other than an electric start system that if you don't pay attention to it, it can wear out. When did KTM and when did they go to the counterbalanced? When they went to the counterbalanced electric start motor with a carburetor, those were good. That was good. It might be that year. I want to say, I guess it was 2017 ATM. So they fixed the electric starter. So yeah, that's a really good bike, and it's simple. I do not have any, and they last forever. I do not have any argument with his discussion other than, it's more focused on the heavy dirt bike side, but that's where some people are. They have no intention to go adventure bike riding or do everything like I want to do. So it's more like Scott. Like Scott would probably be more of a fan of this bike than I would. Yep. Nope.
Yeah.
Yep. What is Christoph? You got to say this name. Christoph Fonsenson 379.
Do you want to skip it so you don't get hurt, or
what? So I don't get. Oh, you mean butt hurt?
Yeah.
Like in a bad way? No, go ahead, say it.
that Husaberg was so bad that MXA didn't even test it?
They weren't tough enough to test it. They did not have the balls to step on a Husaberg 570. These guys that just ride around Glen Helen, like they probably wanted to keep Glen Helen like hilly. If you rode a Husaberg around Glen Helen, it would take all the dirt off the top of the hills and push it down to the bottom, and it looked like a wasteland. So that's why they didn't test it. Next question.
Tom Doe 4295 says CR500R. How many bikes can you name that have more than doubled in price over the years?
Scott?
Almost any of the current two-strokes from back in the era they cost more than they did brand new. That's what you're talking about.
How much does a 93, a working 93 CR, 93, is it 93 or 8? No, 80, 86 or something like that, CR250. The one that just fits in that class, evolution class off, How much do those things go for these days?
It depends if they're remodeled or rebuilt, $5,000 to $7,000 all day long.
Yeah.
You should talk
Crazy.
to Jay. You should talk to Jay about that. He's building like 3, 2004, 2005 CR250s right now, from the ground up.
Oh, that's a mistake. Well, the good thing is the two strokes.
Two strokes, yes.
Yeah, because you can get those things cheap right now. I mean, because they're all basket cases. But the good
No,
thing is there's
excuse
the
me,
aftermarket.
93, 94, the Jeremy McGrath era.
Oh, the steel frame ones.
Yeah, steel frame 94, 95, 96 one.
Nuts.
He's
What
building
is
it up, and they'll get $5,000 to $7,000 in those things when they're done. It's
And
crazy.
you probably buy them for $1,500 in a basket.
Yeah, but they're probably pretty beat up.
Yeah, but like that's where he's done really well of figuring out how to do these bike builds, talk about them. I think if Logan here or Matt were doing a bike in a basket, and by the way, you want to search out bike in the basket on Dirt Bike Test. Matt did a YZ125 rebuild back in the day, and what it taught us was, unless you're getting parts for free, or you just have a little bit of extra money to blow on a motorcycle, bike in a basket can kind of be a bad idea. Decent working bike that needs a little bit of work, okay. But when you start going bike in the basket, you're probably not going to come out ahead financially.
Yeah, but these late 80s and mid or even early 80s, you try to find a 82 RM125, 83, even a pile of junk. They want $2,000 or $3,000 for these things. These are bikes that I remember buying my bike for less than $1,000 in 83 RM125. So it's crazy.
But it was
the theme of these retro and vintage bike racing right now, and these bikes are going for a lot of money.
Yeah, I haven't explored it too much, but I can see. I know, like I said, I know guys are building these things, and I know there's certain ones that have a lot of value because they're they're way more competitive in the class, and they were just back then we didn't realize how much better they were than the other bikes in the class at the time. Okay, at Dana Russell.
Yeah, there's one guy just
14.
said he sold an '83 R80 GS for $25,000.
Does not surprise me. That's a BMW kind of vintage. Yeah. If you as many of the thing is those bikes are probably out and around all over the place, and it wouldn't be that hard to find one. I have no idea if you can get parts for it, but I'm sure just like the motocross bikes that they're available. Okay, next question, Logan.
Daniel Russell 4246 says, I absolutely loved both my Yamaha WR400 and WR450. I waited all those years for Yamaha to make an EXCF version of the WR, but never did. Unfortunately, I finally had enough screwing around getting the Yamaha through motor vehicle and tagged.
Which means he couldn't get a license plate for it, so it sounds like he's in California.
Went orange. No regrets, but came on Yamaha. Get your shit together. Mom always said I looked good in blue.
Well, you could always get some plastic and make your KTM blue, I think. And if not, there's spray paint cans. Yamaha just that's just a market that they don't participate in, because if they did, that would be the best bike ever. Yeah. Yamaha's sponsor of this show. I rode a Yamaha WR250 yesterday. I did extreme enduro by accident because I just got a little carried away and went some places that it ended up getting a little bit nice in the trails, but good times. We're working on getting that test all compiled, and I'm going to do a Tenere 700 vlog update for everybody that's waiting for that. It's just a matter of me sitting in front of the computer for hours and hours, because I'm not a YouTuber. I'm good at explaining how my bike works and why I did stuff, but making that video is difficult for me. I need a filmer. How do you get a filmer to follow you around all over the place?
You pay him.
You pay him.
You pay him. Yeah.
Like, then they just hang out and film you. But how do you make money on the backside of that?
Because
you have
you sponsor
25,000 YouTube followers, and then because I tell you what, I look at the YouTube numbers, and I know, because I know what we get, and all these guys that are YouTubers, and you ask kids today, they want to be a YouTuber, and it's like, you better figure out how to get 1.5 million followers to start. Mark thinks I refilled this bottle. That would not be the case, Mark. I actually have a few different bottles of this, and even though tonight I'm hitting it hard to try to figure out my worst motorcycle, this is the real stuff, the real thing. I'll actually bring it back on screen because Scott tried to sit in front of it. My buddy here, Dos Artes. Next question, Logan.
Eric Miles says, I haven't even watched the video yet.
Okay, hold on a second. Like, you haven't even watched the video yet, but you're going to make a comment. Is this the world we live in? You don't listen to the argument, and you provide. It sounds like me, the way I just talk before I even hear the rest of the question. Go ahead.
If I know Jimmy from Dirt Rider days, it's the XR400. When he left Dirt Bike Magazine, they just fell off the cliff, and the rest was history.
So I literally had the opportunity to ride an XR400 that was all cherried out. A friend of mine, he built one for his son, and he got it all rebuilt, put a pumper carb on it and the whole thing. And his son actually started it up and like revved it at me, like thinking that the sound would really attract me to it. And I mean, it was one of my all-time favorites, but I've lost the affection of the XR400. I don't know why. I think I sold every one of them that I owned. But I did sell a few of them on the contingent that the person that owns it has to sell it back to me if they ever sell it. So that's the way I sell a lot of motorcycles, by the way. So yeah, I don't know. When he left Dirt Rider magazine, they just fell off the cliff. Of course they did. Scott, you could probably say that Dirt Rider started going downhill when you left, right?
Oh, of course, for sure. Then they hired some other kook to run it after I left.
I know.
I know.
I tried to hire you back, didn't I, at some point or another? But you were busy.
No,
You
I
had
was
street tires.
No, I was editor at large for a while after my Supermoto magazine took it down. Remember?
I can't remember.
2010,
I lost
2011,
I lost control.
2012.
So I'll tell you the true story. I've been talking about this for many years now. I'm writing a book called Monkey Butt 2, The Death of Motorcycle Journalism, and I'm pretty much going to throw all the blame on Jesse Ziegler. He was the what's the straw that broke the camel's back? Is that the right saying for this? I was going to say the matchstick that broke the camel's back because he was a little bit hotter than just a regular piece of straw. But his leaving literally began the demise of Dirt Rider magazine, and not specifically like Jesse was such a piece of gold. Here's the dose already starting to kick in right now. Thanks, Jesse. Tag me on Instagram. When Ziegler left, it just like I'll tell the story in the book. I'll write the book. I need to get the book done so that Paul Clipper can edit it because he would be really good at doing that. If you remember any of these names, I'm sorry because you're old like me. What does Eric Miles 1852 say? Oh, he said that's what he just said. Who's next? Outfitter.
My 05 WR450 was a way better bike than the 450X. Two buddies had the X. I had the WR. Mine was totally bulletproof, and they had a lot of issues.
I would love to hear the explanation on that because I've seen the other side of that because I actually rebuilt an 05 WR 450F after a certain amount of miles, Mexico miles too, by the way, where they're kind of, where the X's were designed to run. But there might have been some dirt sucking involved in that bike getting rebuilt, but it did have a lot of miles on it. But interesting, yeah. And what does somebody want to know? What does Jake want to know about the WR450F?
Keep wanting this bike, but cannot find the ECU and Wi-Fi module in stock anywhere. How do I get my hands on one?
I've heard the same, Jake. So I don't know. I'm checking in because I think that we're checking to see about the units we have on my test bikes because I was able to get them, and they may actually be like from an earlier year model because there are some slight little glitches with them. Like the bike, you have to do a long hold on the kill button to get it shut off, which is should not be normal. And then also my fuel consumption gauge doesn't work properly in the dash, which also shouldn't be an issue. So I'll look into that. I'm actually looking at it. I made a call today to look into that, and I haven't got a question about that. So okay, let's do Roosterando.
Okay.
Roosterando is brought to you by Taco Moto. This is the segment where we talk about your motorcycle that you send us a picture of. So what you do is you send us a picture of your motorcycle in an email. You tell us a little bit about it, whether you want to talk about the mods or why you did it. Keep it under 30 seconds of reading, especially for Logan. And then Scott and I will chat about it, and the one that gives us the most enjoyment in the whole show will win a $100 gift certificate from Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co. They have everything you need for whatever kind of bike you have, as long as it isn't a Yamaha fuel pump to go in your new IMS tank. But they have the KTM fuel pumps for all the tanks, which better. And Flynn 825 says the CCUs for the newer WR450s are back in stock at $420. Woo! I did not know they were $420. Okay, where's our first one, Logan?
Do you have?
Yeah. How do I see the picture?
Well, we're gonna put the picture up. Hopefully, it's gonna come on your. Do you have a screen where you're watching us?
No,
someplace?
I don't. I'll have to try to.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to go onto the YouTubes. Actually, we should have shared the folder with you, but go ahead and put it up on the screen.
The
Scott
YouTube
will
or
see
the
it in a minute.
Facebook?
Either one. They're both the same. That's good. You got the Roosterando logo up there. That's good.
Oh, wrong one. I guess. Oh.
There we go.
It's Adam Henson.
Adam Henson.
2023 KTM 300 XCW. The mods are bulletproof radiator guards.
Good job on that.
Recluse CX clutch, left-hand rear brake, KTM hard parts, KTM hard parts fan, Enduro Engineering handguards and spark arrestor cap, the Cherokee skid plate and upper fork protectors, ProTech wraparound lower fork protectors, S3 punk pegs, Tusk rear caliper guard, tubeless with Pirelli MT43 and Kenda Parker DT, nice CNC grab handle and front strap, Public Land Riders front bag, Moto seat cover.
I actually like what he's done with the color scheme. I don't know why, but it's just, I think that looks cool. The blue highlights he's given that thing. So looks like he's out riding it. Looks like it's wet dirt, which I enjoy. Maybe a little bit too sticky. The dirt's kind of compiled up on the tire. And Asher Lito says this guy is running slicks off road. Well, I would just like to tell him if he go a little bit faster, that mud would fly off of the tires. But then, like, trying to get to that speed can be a little sketchy. Sometimes you just have to wait to let the moisture sink into the dirt a little bit more. You know about this, right, Logan, out here?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, the donut tires is what we like to call them. But yeah, good looking bike. Nice photo. I can see the bike. He got the light right. He stood on the right side. Sometimes, Scott, you as a professional photographer, sometimes we stand on the wrong side of the bike to shoot the photo, and that bothers me. I don't know how I learned this, from my elders. But Mark Daniel says it's a Roost. What do you think, Scott?
Pretty good. I mean, he could have got kneeled down a little bit lower to shoot the picture. He's got quite a bit of disco parts on the bike, so I bet it all depends on whether he's really using that stuff or he's really going to go extreme off-road. If he's kind of pussyfooting around, then some of the accessories he's got is a little bit overkill. So I would still think it's a solid. It's a solid off-road bike, though, for sure.
Oh, I'm glad that somebody else is going down photography lane a little harder than me. Finally. Like I said, I'm glad he's on the right side of the bike, but I think I'm gonna get Roosterando. That's the question.
I would say it's a Roost because it's a solid bike.
Yeah, good Roost. Yeah. And Josh K says when you buy a KTM, but you're a Yamaha fan at heart. I like that. That's a good. Maybe he's just got a little Yamaha WR in his heart. Next one, Logan. And remember, so at the end of the night, Scott, we have to pick a winner. It's the one that gives you the most enjoyment, good or bad. Coming up here. Oh, wow.
Thomas West, 2019 Husqvarna TE 250i. Played it in street legal in Idaho. OEM Husqvarna LED headlight in the 2020 through 2023 headlight housing. Tusk skid plate, BPD rear disc guard, TPS guard, and swing arm tab guard.
Is this bike currently listed for sale? Is there a price at the bottom of this?
Actually, it's the opposite. He loves the bike, and it's definitely not for sale.
Oh, okay.
A Cherubi's frame guard, Fastway handguards and Evo 4 pegs, Power Mod fold-out handguard mirror, GPR steering stabilizer, Polysport front disc guard, plastic for Jimmy, and swing arm guards, S3 high-altitude head, Flow Motorsports radiator guards, FMF gnarly and turbine core 2.1, Enduro Engineering carbon pipe guard, and slave cylinder guard drilled out to access the Recluse Recluse Radius XC clutch, OX hydraulic left hand rear brake, tugger straps front and rear. I love this bike, and it's definitely not for sale.
Okay. The questions come quicker than the answers here. Logan, have you ridden by there?
Have I?
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, you don't remember it.
If
no.
I did, it would have been with you.
No, we didn't ride by there. That's a Mark's a photographer now. Midday Sun. I just sit there and I go, the first thing I saw when I saw this is like, I want to go there. And I honestly don't. That looks like Colorado to me, in all honesty. It doesn't look like Idaho. I know it says plated in Idaho, but it looks a little more Colorado. And it's probably a famous peak, and I don't remember it because I'm going to blame the lighting. So, Scott?
I definitely, it's a good motorcycle, but for sure, I would say that that picture could have been captured at a different time of the day, and it would have been tenfold better, and the impact would have been that much better. Definitely high noon. It might have been a circumstance that they were having lunch or whatnot, but the guy likes his motorcycle, better than he likes his photography, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's that's super good. I'm going with the Roost. I actually like the yellow highlights on this thing. I think it's a good thing. He's got a good list of mods. He's got all this stuff. Seems pretty good. Even the swing arm protectors. Because if you're riding in, like, if you look up there, if you go any higher than that, you're riding in rocks. And if you cut a turn too tight on a switchback or whatever, like, I always hate it when I scratch a swing arm, and that's where those swing arm protectors actually do come in handy. I'm going Roost on that one, even though Scott isn't so stoked on his photography. I get to take a backseat on the photography bandwagon here.
Well, if I use a few of my strengths, I would have to say that it could have been a really, really dynamic picture if he would have caught the right time of the day, for sure.
Yeah.
And the fact that he spent most of his kids' college fund on building this motorcycle, that I might be a little bit.
What's he got on the seat? What's sitting on the seat? Is that his GoPro? His shave kit? Can you know how to zoom in on that thing? I get Matt to.
I do.
My other producer, the guy who's ditching, like, he knows how to zoom in, but he likes wearing. It's a what?
It's a trunk of that tree. Nope, that's a.
No, what's that black
rock.
thing on the seat?
That's actually a rock.
No, that's something sitting on the seat.
I don't know.
Is his GoPro?
Could be.
Yeah. There's vibrator. Maybe it's his vibrator. His helmet's on the side of the handlebar too. Okay, next one.
Maybe it's a bird.
It roosts. It could be a bird. Oh, it's take your helmet and goggles off the bars. Come on, Brenda.
Oh.
Be nice. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. This seems kind of familiar. Who sent this in?
One sec.
1 second.
Bob Samitsky.
Oh, poor Logan's not as good as that other kid that we pay a little bit of money to. Bob Savinsky. I like that he's got.
Guess.
I like that he's got some sponsors on there. I'm liking Takomoto stickers on there. Sponsor of this segment, by the way, takomoto.co. If you want your bike to be able to be like this, you can go to Takomoto and they can probably get you every part on this bike's catalog. Start listing it off.
Original vet owned. 2017 KTM 250 XCF. Original vet owned. Off-road racer. 306 hours. 3 top ends. Most recent top end included new valves and cams. Bottom end still rock solid. Rotella 5W 5 weight 40. WP shocks with
540 or 1540?
5W40.
Sounds like a typo. Should we call him on that? That's 1 point off.
It's a typo.
Rotella's generally 1540, but go ahead.
WP shocks with Race Tech gold valves. Sprung for a 190-pound rider. FMF 4.1 titanium exhaust strap on.
Okay, stop. Hold. Sprung for a 190-pound rider. Scott, like, is that stock springs or is that up one on a KTM 350?
That's probably
maybe up one.
That's for sure up one. Yeah.
Up one. Okay. Got it. Keep going.
ECU remapped by Boyce Racing. Renthal fat bars cut down 0.75 inch each side. Midwest Mountain Engineering levers.
Those are those ones I was talking about. If you got big fingers, I think they're okay.
Cycra wraparound handguards. Cycra threaded bar ends. Enduro Engineering radiator braces.
So I'm gonna I like interrupting. You know this.
Yeah.
You got to get home early. What time you got to go to work tomorrow?
I have school tomorrow.
School.
Yeah.
You're still in school?
Mm-hmm.
College?
No.
No, high
Senior.
school.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they kicked you out or something like that.
Kinda.
Kinda.
Online now.
Online. Oh, you're online school.
Yeah.
But you have to show up to online school.
I go in once a week.
Okay. Just making sure everything's good there. So those threaded bar inserts he's talking about, like if you really want to make your bark busters, your wraparound handguard Sano, that is the way to do it. So keep going.
Rear brake disc rotor guard, Trailtech radiator fan assembly, Trailtech high output stator, 80 watt. Dirt Tricks rear brake returns spring system, Faster USA custom wheels, front and rear tubeless 2.0 system, Achery's magnetic swing arm guard, Works connection axle block adjuster, Shinko MX 216 MX, front tire, Dunlop MX 14 rear, custom fan enable/disable switch, thermostat controlled enable, Sarai.
Wow, we're back to the old days, Logan. What was that word?
Sarai.
Sarai.
But it's also spelled wrong,
Okay.
right?
You're just reading it the way it says.
Yeah.
Shorai.
Sarai.
Those are the batteries that I use at my school.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Zip tie inline fuel filter, Fastway EXT air foot pegs, Dirt Tricks cam chain tensioner, Dirt Tricks front sprocket and dome washer, Tuss solid brake rotors, Renthal twin rear sprocket, Recluse torque drive clutch, Recluse clutch cover, Recluse slave cylinder guard, AXP skid stain plate, Proline funnel web air filter, Core Moto hydraulic lines, Achery's dirt flea straps, Seat Concepts.
Are we getting to the end of this list at some point?
2.0 seat decal MX.
Because I don't want you to fall
graphics.
asleep while you're reading this.
That's it.
Where's the price? that was a list. So
Yeah.
Scott, I'm pretty sure that this kid, none of his kids are going to college at this point.
No, but I smell some J. Clark on this motorcycle. That's why it's so well put together.
Do you think? So this guy's name is not Jay Clark, right?
No, it's
What-
Bob's.
But it has dirt
Bob-
bike TV graphics on it, so I think it's
Right. Well, you can probably buy those now off. Go to his link tree. Literally, go to Jay's link tree, and then when you go there, just make sure you go back to dirtbiketest.com and click on our link to Amazon or Rocky Mountain, and then after you find all the stuff that you want to get, just come back to ours. He's probably not. He's asleep. He already told me he's asleep. So, because all of us Instagrammers are just living large off of these big commissions that we get, but that does seem like a J. Clark bike. But I kid you not,
Could have been a former J. Clark bike, at one point. Eventually they do get out into the general public.
Yeah, no, I mean, like he builds these bikes up and he goes through a few of them. The KTM 350 is one of his favorite bikes. He talks about this all the time, and he's a moto guy and he likes these off-road bikes. But there's these little nuggets like the zip tie filter, the inserts in the handlebars, just some of the setup things that he's done to that bike, or Jay did to that bike, or however it is. I remember he's Wiseco Jay, but what tires? He does not have Dunlop tires on it, so it's definitely
the rear
one step. It is a rear. Okay, he's one step removed from Jay, and it has a tire sticker on it, so it's that close. But that's a pretty well set up Cherry, that one there. Not liking the angle. Scott, this kid named Drew Ruiz, familiar with him?
Yeah, I think he's quite the accomplished photographer. Yes.
He always told me never shoot down on a motorcycle. It's disrespectful.
No, it's not good. Plus, she's got a picnic table in the background.
Well, he's probably got a ride spot where he's built an awesome table up, and they can go out and hang out. It looks pretty good. I'm going. He's got a stopwatch on his handlebar. Did he talk about that? Or is that his GPS unit that he's using there? Who knows?
I don't know. It didn't say.
Yeah, it didn't say. It wasn't on the list. You could add that to the list. I'm going just Roost. That's a nice motorcycle. I'm being nice tonight.
Yeah, I would
I'm
say
still thinking about what.
It's well thought out, and it's got a lot of stuff on there. But overall, it's for sure a good motorcycle. Photography is not the best, but the actual product of the bike is good.
Yeah. Okay, what's our next one, Logan? Is this our last one, or we got two more?
We have
Good.
one more after this.
Okay, two more. Here we go.
Roger Eddington.
I know this guy. I've seen this bike before.
Got a 2015 KTM 200 XCW. Rider is 63 years young. For a few more days. Weighs 185 per year. Double take mirror. Hondo garage wireless phone holder with lockable ram mount. Cycrobark busters. Seat concepts. Woolman mini tank bag. Tusk Traverse pannier bags. Electron Billetron, yeah. So I'm already feeling this list is going to be really long. No, it's actually pretty short.
Okay.
Golan fuel filter, anti-gravity lithium restart battery, bulletproof design, swing arm guard, fine line suspension.
I don't see the swing arm guard on there. I think he's talking about rear disc guard.
Could be.
Okay. Just pointing out.
Stock P15 forks, 0.46 kilograms, I think.
Yep.
Motion Pro fork bleeders, Dingo upper fork guards, Kenda Equilibrium 4.5 18 Michelin bib, Golden Tire 90/90 21 with Nitro Platinum mousse, Recluse clutch and rear hand brake, P3 pipe guard, Tugger both ends, Pro System foot pegs, Mojo axle guard, SRT radiator guards, XRT rear disc guard, GPR stabilizing system, sick ass signal direction.
Okay, you said this list was short. Scott, Tom says that we could pass as brothers. Have you heard this before?
A couple times. In fact,
yeah.
I've even been accused of being you by a Japanese guy named Shogo one time.
Nice.
Hey, have we ever told the story about how we went to that Halloween costume contest?
I'm not sure if we have. Should we?
As Siamese twins? No,
Yeah,
we shouldn't.
Siamese twins. we tied our one of our legs together, so
yeah,
we were three-legged, literally.
Yeah, it's an interesting world out there. We're tolerant. It's a Roost in the background says let's go riding. It's definitely, it looks loamy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like sand for sure.
Yeah, that's also a well set up bike. I've always been a big fan of the 200s. I have one. I think I sold it, but I still kind of it's in my possession, but I sold it.
Is the guy actually cutting the front tire off with the picture, or is that just the way you guys cropped it?
That is cropped.
Oh, so you're just trying to fit it in the screen.
Yeah.
So you're wrecking this guy's image. Do we get the full tire, or are we cutting
No,
it
that's
still?
it.
Okay, Scott, go ahead and let him have it.
It's still cut.
Oh yeah, he didn't place the motorcycle in the middle of the frame, and if it's if it's a bike shot, then he's got a helmet on his back fender. He could have got rid of the helmet just to showcase the motorcycle. And like Drew always says, get down a little bit, show more of the bike, show a little bit more of the sky.
Right, and if he's leaving that back end hanging out there in the wind, so you can see the mountains, I can't see the mountain. Longer lenses are it really help out the photo. That was beaten into me as a young magazine guy. Like the bike, like the mods. I think we're having a really very roostful evening tonight, and the bikes are all kind of fitting into the same category for the most part.
They're all
Good
well put
trail
together.
rigs.
And there's no POSs yet. I mean, there's no.
Yeah,
there's
on
no
the worst
yard bikes. No one's
on the worst.
bike.
Yeah, on the worst show ever, we don't have anything that's just the worst bike. It's a roost in the back, and the ground says, "Let's go riding." Yeah. Okay. Last photo.
Yep.
Here we go. And who brings us this bike?
GG.
GG. 4 G's?
Capital G, lowercase g, space, capital G, lowercase g.
Okay, so I'm curious, are any of the participants in the chat? Let me know if you're in the chat, because that might very heavily weigh on my opinion on which bike wins the Taco Moto gift certificate. But go ahead, Logan.
2004 YZ 450F, heavy flywheel, weight, tall seat, Hong Kong foot pegs, light speed.
Hong Kong?
Yep.
Hong Kong. Got it.
Light speed fork guards, CR brake routing, steel braided brake line, Cypress Stadium number plate, newer front fender, Nitro Moose, Starcross 6 soft intermediate, Cherby's handguard, zip tie racing suspension, jetted correctly, oversized radiators, Moose Racing 1.8 radiator cap, picture in NM.
New Mexico.
Okay.
There's some sand out there.
Yeah.
That looks like some roosting. That's a place where you need a 450. Let her eat. This is a guy who's getting the most out of an older bike, and I like that he's put the new fender on the old bike, only because I've done that with my 2005 YZ125. He's got a 2004. Good to know that those things kind of still fit. The fact that he says it's jetted perfectly, I like that. I mean, that's somebody, especially on a 4-stroke, that's a carbureted 4-stroke. That's the it shows he's really good on the bike. Scott, where you at on this?
It's pretty solid bike. It all depends if he built it or if he buy it that way. That's the biggest question too. Photography wise, he definitely could have worked his way on that. I mean, he's in the sand. Could easily just stuck the bike in the sand and it would have propped itself up by itself. I'd like to see more of the side of the bike. It's kind of a 3/4 front. I can't see enough on the motorcycle.
That's why he gave us that list, which actually was one of the shorter lists tonight, and I do appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And most people will think that just since it's a Yamaha, it's going to automatically win, because Yamaha does sponsor this show, right?
Yeah, except for we have 2 of the participants
in the chat. Okay, so really, Mark Daniel says this is the only endo. Why? Because it's blue. We were just talking about how somebody wanted to have a blue one. Let's see. T Flannel says, my wife said the same thing about you two tonight. She walked through the living room. She wasn't sitting there cuddling with you while you're watching Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I mean, come on. This is a it's kind of a couples show. Ask my wife.
So was she calling you an Indo, Jimmy?
No, my wife basically said, she told Jana, who you were familiar with, don't encourage those guys to take their shirts off, because we will. I have some videos. I pulled up some old videos from our Thanksgiving parties out in the desert. I sent them to Brent Farrell.
What was that?
He was horrified.
25, 30 years ago?
Yeah, it's a little closer than that. We had video cameras back then, but so Adam says he's cuddling with his wife. I'm sorry. I would like to apologize to your wife for having to listen to this right now. Let's see. Who else?
Adam Hansen and Roger Eddington
are both in there. So Roger and Adam are in there. And Adam is which bike?
Adam is
He's
300.
He's in the 3. Was that the
yeah, the 2023 KTM 300.
That was the early one. Okay. And then Roger's actually doing the top end on his KTM 200 as we speak. A lot of people do listen to the show while they're working on their bikes in their garage. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while I'll drop a bit of knowledge and it might actually help, and most of the time they're just like trying to pass time, which is what this does. So Scott, this is the point. Logan, do you have a favorite? We didn't really let you weigh in. Sometimes we let Matt weigh in. You used to help with Roosterando.
Yeah, and then I kept calling everyone's thing a 6, and then you kind of revoked that from me.
A 6.
Yeah.
Out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have an opinion. So, so Logan, what do you like? If it was your $100 and you had to give it to somebody, where is it going, and for what reason? This is Logan doing what he does best. Like that was complete silence.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pass on you. I'm gonna go to Scott, and you start thinking about it, because when I come back to you, you got to talk. It's kind of like the old days.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, so Scott, where's your $100 going?
I would have to say the first bike, or give the guy credit for the mountain scene in the background bike, even though it's bad photography.
So Adam and Thomas.
Adam and Thomas, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna, and Logan, you're gonna get Logan. Here's the best thing. Since you're such an undecided little quiet man over in the corner right now, you're the one that's gonna get to decide the end after I drop my my impressions. You're making the decision.
Sweet.
Sweet. So I'm gonna agree with Scott on Adam's bike. I like that. The colors just looked good. It looks roostable. I like I like everything about that thing. It was good. I like Bob's bike for some of the things, but I think Jay Clark did it, so that's going to cost him. Because if he bought it from Jay, he probably got a really good deal. Check out Dirt Bike TV 1 if you want to learn more, like little tech tips and stuff like that. I'm going to start smoking Jay on tech tips. I'm going to do better tech tips than Jay. So that one doesn't count. I like that Roger's watching, and his bike was a solid thing. He's putting a top end in that already, so he's keeping that thing running. And the guy with all the G's in his name, the reason that I'm a little bit pulled at, not just because it's a Yamaha, but he's keeping an older bike running, and he looks like he's put some heart into it. We don't know whether, like Scott brought up, we don't know he's put all of his heart into it, or he bought it like that. But I think, by putting that fender on there, it struck a special nerve with me. And the fact that he said it was jetted right and all the different things. So for me, it's between Adam and Gigi of all things. Those are the two. But Logan, you're going to get to make the decision tonight. I don't ever even give Matt this option, because he's always dressed kind of sharp. He looks like a salesman.
It's between Gigi and Roger.
Okay.
Because I like the how short Gigi was, but I like that Roger's still out there riding. So.
Okay. Wow, a young guy giving old guy. A young guy. So you just created like literally a three-way tie. If we had to like break this, it's like there's no breaking it. But you're gonna go. You're gonna go with you're the young guy that likes the old guy still riding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Roger? He came to the class. He's come to our class before, I believe.
So.
Yeah, I have a hard time remembering exactly, but I do remember the name for some reason, and I like KTM 200, so I'm not gonna. So Logan, you get to decide.
I like Roger's bike.
Roger, you are the winner of the Taco Moto $100 gift certificate. So what you need to do is reach out to Matt at JimmyLewisOffroad.com. Let him know that you won tonight, and congratulations, buddy. And make sure you put the circlips in properly. That's the important part. You're supposed to send a message to Matt about this too, so he knows.
Okay.
Yeah. So because all the other guys will just. He was 63. He's that's like a year older than you, isn't it?
I think 64.
No.
64 now.
So
64 at the time.
Jimmy, where do you see yourself in your 60s riding?
Ripping. I'm gonna still be sending.
Still ripping.
I'm gonna lose some weight and get in better shape and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna keep riding. So when we were talking about like earlier, we were talking about getting in shape, which you've done a good job. Like I was talking, like I've kind of fallen off the chart on this one, but lately I've been having like back issues and hip and muscle issues in my legs and all this stuff. And of course it's, number one, just blame it because I'm fat. But we were talking about like what we're doing to do it. And you were talking about just avoid. What were you doing?
I'm just trying to avoid starch, potatoes, carbohydrates, and refined sugar for the most part. Cutting that out as much as I possibly can, and also intermittent fasting. I don't eat breakfast anymore. Usually don't eat till like 10 a.m., maybe 11.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never been a breakfast person myself, so I can't complain that's caused my that's caused my problems. But I kid you not, the one thing that I do is I get on my motorcycle and I go ride. So, like I just had a segment where I was doing a lot of driving, moving, not doing motorcycle riding, or at least aggressive motorcycle riding, where I was out bouncing through bumps and stuff. I did a lot of adventure riding, and I kind of went off the, my body started hurting. And then the past couple of days I started riding again, and every day I ride, I feel that much better. And so, it's amazing. We talk about like how good it is, for kids to go riding, to just keep them in line. Logan, when you were younger, if you didn't have motorcycles, how much trouble could you have gotten into?
Whole lot more.
I totally agree with this. I tell this all the time when I'm talking to kids or, parents that are debating about getting their kids motorcycles. It's like, give them something they can really go screw around with. And you're going to learn a lot more than you think. But even as old guys, like it keeps me out of trouble. Just trouble like having to go to the doctor and complain about, oh, I should just go get some pain pills. And now I go riding, and amazingly, I mean, sure, I can make more pain with bad riding, but do good riding and it's all good. So motoing twice a week, Scott.
Yeah, this has been something I haven't done in probably since my dirt rider days before you worked there. I haven't ridden it twice a week for years, and I didn't think I could, to be honest, because I'd ride once a week sometimes, and I would be in pain trying to recover all week. But as I got in a little bit better shape, I started riding twice a week. I'm like, I felt better. I mean, I'm not in awesome shape, but I'm in better shape, so it makes a difference. But I don't overdo it. I don't ride too much. I don't ride over my head, and I am getting slower. Not that I was ever really fast, but I've slowed down in my elder age.
You've come to terms with the speed you can go.
Yeah, I know that if I go ride my 75, 80%, I can ride all day. I'm not going to dab a foot and twist a knee or go over the handlebars or, go over a berm. I know my limits, and I just have fun, and I still try to push it a little bit, but I try to stay within my means.
Yeah. Controlled pushing.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's cool. We, like I said, we do show stream to one of the Facebook channels where they talk about moto fitness for old guys and stuff. Logan, you should probably join this thing. Just like poke fun at them. It's just like every comment that they make, just get in there and say you're old and fat. That's a winner.
Okay, I'm on it.
So, anyways, hey, Scott, thanks. We got our main question: the worst bike ever.
Bikes.
Oh shoot, this show's gone way long.
Oh,
It's so easy to talk a long time about bad shit. Yeah, but this is what everybody's waiting for. There was a lot of people hanging on hold, but they're gonna be watching later. And I know a lot of people are gonna scroll right through this just to get to the end of the show. This is what we're here for. Scott, Logan, do you have a worst bike ever?
My Honda Big Board 50 out to a 70 something.
Why was that?
I could never get it running.
So you modified the bike beyond the point of running?
No, it was a birthday present that was...
Did your dad modify it?
No.
He bought it modified.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it never ran.
Yeah.
Well, he was actually doing you a favor. He wanted you to learn how to become a mechanic and fix these things.
Well, I was already fixing my other pit bike.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that. Okay. Scott, what's your bike? And this is not going to give me a whole lot of time to think about mine.
Well, my obvious bike would have to be probably a Cannondale, but I would
You
say
guys, you were at Dirt Rider. I begged that you were at Dirt Rider when you guys collectively picked it as Bike of the Year. So keep going.
so we picked it as Bike of the Year for its potential and its concept and its innovation before
Have
we
you seen a
actually
YZ450 lately?
before we rode the bike. So, and after we rode it, and I never did really appreciate that bike, but I would have to say my close second would be the 97 CR250.
CR250. Wow, really?
Yeah.
That was a bike I think I actually picked that as Motocross Bike of the Year at Cycle World Magazine. I don't know. We'd have to go back and look at that time
The
frame,
first
but
generation steel frame CR250.
the aluminum frame.
I mean, aluminum frame, yeah.
Aluminum framed. Yeah. That was funny because I got along with that bike. I was actually able to make it work pretty good. I kind of appreciated the direction things were going. So, and I have to go back and look at Cycle World Magazine, and I think we if it, by we, I mean mostly me because I was the only one really riding dirt bikes there. Kind of put that bike in it higher than maybe, especially collectively, it should have been, but I kind of saw the direction of where everything was going, and yeah, it was stiff, and there was certain things it didn't do very well, but that was the aluminum frame future, and I saw that, and I knew that they could make that work. So good grief, I have to pick my worst bike ever.
Any dirt bikes sold at Pep Boys back in the heyday.
I still want to buy one of those things they have at Tractor Supply. Those what are those things that all the Coleman's? Yeah, they have the Gambler 150 where they all take those things and go ride them out around in the desert. Worst bike ever. God, there has to be something that just sticks out as being horrible. And so it's funny because I used to be a big proponent of XR400, and part of me wants to just, that was such a good bike at doing a lot of different things, but it really wasn't good at anything. And then right next to it was the Suzuki DRZ 450, which it was heavier and it had electric start and it was water cooled and did all these other things. It was the same thing, just different. And part of me wants to go there, and then I can go down the avenue of all these weird bikes that I've ridden. Mako 700 comes to mind. Oh boy, Ron Hardy actually.
What about the first year RMZ 450 off-road bike?
That bike confused the hell out of me. It was so, I fought with that bike because Suzuki would not tell me what it was really for, because they're the ones that make it. Tell me who it's for, and they're like, it's for racing. It's like, well, it comes all corked up and all this stuff, and they wouldn't allow me to modify it. But then they go, oh no, it's a trail bike, and like it ran like a completely corked up, horrible bike. So yeah, that bike is kind of up there. And so a lot of people right now are pumping up the KTM 690 as the bike that I would hate the most. And that's another bike that just confuses me because I don't know what it's exactly for. But there's got to be something. I'm thinking like the Aprilia 450 twin cylinder bike that I thought had so much potential, but it just failed miserably at doing everything it was supposed to be doing. There's the Husabergs, which like when they were easy to work on, they were time bombs, so they were just going to blow up. And then when they actually made them durable, like the 2008 to 10 ones, if you have to like, aside from doing the air filter and oil, everything else in that bike is miserable to even work on. So
what about the Vertimanis back in the day? I never rode any of those.
Those were, like I say, just fragile ticking time bombs that who knows? Any bike is good if it's a bike that you got. Yeah. See, this is harder. This is way harder than the new one. There's got to be something that I absolutely I rode I rode one of the first bikes I ever tested for Cycle World was a CZ. It was a modern CZ where they tried to get back in the game. And frankly, those things were kind of horrible. I tested some little. Actually, I tested a. We actually bought a little mini bike that was built in China that was shaped like an Aprilia 450, and everything tore out of the frame. Like the bolts pulled out of the frame, the foot pegs fell off of it, everything bent. That was garbage, but it wasn't a real bike. I'm thinking of a real bike. And somebody just put up the Kawasaki Suzuki collaboration motocross 250.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting too, but those weren't really. I don't think they were really. At the time, they weren't that bad. But something just sticks. What sticks out is just an absolute sucker. Can I waffle on this question and hold it till next week?
It's your show.
It's my show. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to waffle with this question until next week. I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to come with a good answer. Because if I don't have a good answer, I'm not just going to spout something out. I want to have a really good answer of a bike that I truly think is the worst bike ever. A Suzuki TM400 definitely fits the bill.
But how far do you go back?
Yeah, exactly. How far do you go back? But I think it should be something that just genuinely was really bad. I mean, I could probably pick on the Honda 250s, the 250 4-strokes when they first came out for their horrible valve life and some stuff, but the performance was so high it almost overrode it. You know, it was a high performance 4-stroke. You just had to expect to be able, you know, to modify this stuff. And if you did stupid things like any 4-stroke, you let dirt through the filter or over rev it, it's going to be a problem. And it had a shelf life. Oh boy, how are those BMW G450Xs? Good question. I actually appreciated some of the qualities that bike had. Not that I bowed out of doing testing on that BMW. I knew where my job lied and I couldn't have conflict of interest, so I didn't test one of those things. I knew about it about 3 years before it ever came out. So I'm gonna waffle on this one. I'm totally gonna waffle, and I'm gonna come back next week with my pick of the worst bike ever, and I'll have a good reason for it. And if you guys want to come on and talk about that, I'd really appreciate it. I like everybody for joining in, chatting on the show, doing what we do. Our chat room kind of goes off when you're live, and share it with a friend. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments of the video you're watching, or if you're on your social platform, just send us an email and tell us how much this was the worst show you've ever listened to. Scott, thanks for contributing to this mess.
Well, you told me you wanted the worstness, but maybe my my stage fright didn't allow me to, bring out all my negativity that you were looking for.
No, it's a new Scott. You turned over a leaf. I'm stoked. So, anyways, I do like that. Logan, you didn't screw the show up. Yes, yeah, it's a win.
Now, would you say this show is better or worse than Wayne's World?
Is that better. Wait? What do you rock on or something like that? Show?
Yeah,
Wayne's World.
Party Time, Wayne's World.
Party time. Yeah. I like the song that they had, the one that Geddy Lee sang on. For that, they got the one of the one of the main singers of the world to help with that. We need some help, or maybe I get some punk rockers on here, or something like that. But anyways, thanks everybody for joining in. Really appreciate it. And with that, we'll see you out on the trail. So hey, wait, can I list off my sponsors one more time?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't click off yet. Listen to these sponsors. The reason we have them is they help make this show possible. So Double Take Mirrors, Bulletproof Design, Seat Concept, Fasst Company, Trail Tech, DDC, Climb, Scott Sports, Taco Moto, and of course Yamaha. And you can also support us by clicking through our links on Amazon and for Rocky Mountain on our website. Go to dirtbiketest.com, and we will see you out in the trail. Cheers, buddies.